Beneath the surface of our world lie secrets that challenge everything we think we know. Ancient structures that defy logic. Artifacts whose purpose is lost to time. And mysteries so precise, so meticulously hidden, that even the brightest minds cannot explain them. Imagine standing before a massive stone monument, perfectly aligned with the stars, or uncovering a tomb sealed for millennia, untouched, yet whispering secrets of civilizations long vanished. How were these wonders created? Who were the hands that built them, and what knowledge did they possess that we've since forgotten? Tonight, we journey into the shadows of history, to confront the inexplicable and awaken our sense of wonder. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the mind-blowing archaeological discoveries that no one can explain. Along the windswept coastline of Dorset, England, where the rolling waves meet rugged cliffs and the wind carries the salt and chill of the sea, a discovery was made that would quietly haunt archaeologists and historians alike. In the spring of 2009, during routine construction for a relief road near Weymouth, the earth yielded a grim and enigmatic secret. A mass grave containing the skeletal remains of dozens of men, all decapitated, their skulls deliberately removed and set aside in a meticulous arrangement. Even today, the sight evokes a chilling stillness, as if time itself paused to bear witness to a moment of calculated violence. Radiocarbon dating placed the remains in the late 10th to early 11th centuries, a turbulent period when Viking incursions and local conflicts shaped the destiny of England's southern shores. But the science could only tell so much. The men were young, robust, and clearly accustomed to harsh physical demands, likely warriors. Isotope analysis of their teeth revealed something even more startling. These were not local men. Their origins spanned across Scandinavia, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and even distant Iceland. They were outsiders, travelers in a foreign land, now buried in a manner that speaks to fear, authority, or perhaps vengeance. Yet, even as forensic science paints this portrait of violence and displacement, it leaves profound questions unanswered. Why were these men executed in such a precise, brutal manner? The cuts were deep and deliberate, yet inconsistent in places, as if the executioners were hurried or perhaps ritualistic in their intent. The removal of the skulls, so carefully separated from the bodies, adds another layer of mystery. Was it punishment, a display of dominance, or some form of posthumous humiliation meant to sever not only life but identity? Some historians suggest these headless men were captured raiders, Vikings who had ventured too far from home and paid the ultimate price at the hands of an embittered local population. Others propose a political dimension. They may have been executed as part of power struggles between local kingdoms, or even as deterrents against future invasions. In a period marked by shifting alliances and fragile power, the execution of foreigners could have served as both warning and spectacle, a stark reminder of who held control over the land. Yet there are elements that resist such tidy explanations. The sheer number of men, all young and presumably capable fighters, hints at a more systematic effort rather than an impulsive act. The care taken to arrange their skulls separately, the choice of location, slightly removed from any known settlement, and the absence of accompanying artifacts, all suggest a ritual or symbolic purpose that remains elusive. Could there have been beliefs or customs, lost to time, that dictated this manner of burial? Or might these men have been victims of something even stranger, caught in a sequence of events that combined politics, superstition, and fear? Archaeologists continue to study the bones for clues, microscopic marks on teeth and bones that hint at diet and health, trauma patterns that suggest not only execution, but training in combat, and isotopic evidence that reveals travel patterns across the North Sea. Each piece of evidence builds a story grounded in the known world, a story of men who left their homeland, navigated the treacherous waters of medieval England, and met a violent fate. Yet even with these scientific threads, the larger tapestry remains incomplete. In imagining their final moments, one cannot help but picture a tense, fog-laden coastline, where the roar of waves masked the murmurs of executioners. Did the men understand their fate, or were they captured in the chaos of a skirmish, offered only the cold certainty of death? Were these the remains of raiders brought swiftly to justice, or were they part of a darker, ritualistic tradition, one that sought to impose order or appease forces beyond human comprehension? And then there is the silence that follows, the absence of any written record, the lack of oral tradition, the way the landscape seems to hold its breath over what transpired. In Dorset, the cliff edges erode slowly, the tides shift the sands, and the memory of these headless men lingers as a quiet, unresolved whisper. They speak not through words, but through absence, through the starkness of bones stripped of identity, leaving us to wonder, what circumstances led to this act? Who were the men beyond their origin and physical prowess? And what did their deaths signify to those who carried them out? As investigators and historians continue to examine the site, the questions multiply rather than diminish. Each answer invites another query, another layer of uncertainty. In the soft light of Dorset's evenings, with gulls circling and waves washing the shore, it is easy to imagine the echoes of a long-forgotten world. Warriors far from home, lives ended abruptly, and a ritual or judgment whose meaning has been swallowed by centuries. And so, the mystery endures. The headless Vikings of Dorset remain a haunting enigma, a silent testament to a violent past whose details may never fully emerge. The bones themselves are both evidence and question, grounding us in history while urging our minds toward the unknown. What remains hidden beneath the soil, in records never written and stories never told, continues to invite speculation and wonder. From the windswept cliffs of Dorset, our journey now drifts far across the Atlantic, beneath waters that hide as many secrets as they conceal. Off the northern coast of Cuba, near the province of Villa Clara, lies a submerged landscape so precise, so strikingly ordered, that even the most seasoned divers have described it as almost impossible. The sea here is deceptively calm, with turquoise waves lapping against sunlit shallows, but beneath the surface, at depths reaching 600 to 700 meters, rests a city of stone that seems to defy time itself. The first reports emerged in the late 1990s, when sonar scans and deep-sea photography revealed rectilinear formations, streets, and what appeared to be plazas and stairways, all composed of enormous stone blocks. Some of the stones are carved with smooth edges, fitting together with precision that recalls the monumental craftsmanship of ancient civilizations. Yet the structures are laid out in patterns unlike anything documented in the Caribbean. The images, grainy but undeniable, sparked immediate curiosity. Could these formations be natural geological phenomena? Or were they remnants of a civilization long forgotten? Geologists initially suggested that the formations might be the result of tectonic activity or natural erosion, a coincidence of underwater rock layers creating illusions of human design. Yet even in these analyses, certain features resist easy explanation. The symmetry of the blocks, the apparent alignment of structures along axes that correspond roughly to cardinal directions, and the presence of what resemble stepped terraces and pyramidal shapes. The precision is striking, and for some, it raises questions about what people might have built here and why. The age of these underwater ruins remains uncertain. Some estimates suggest they could be over 6,000 years old, potentially predating the well-known civilizations of Mesoamerica, long before any written record of organized culture in this region. If so, These structures would represent a level of architectural and societal sophistication that challenges conventional understanding of prehistoric Caribbean peoples. How could humans, without advanced tools or written knowledge, construct such monumental stone formations? Were they survivors of a forgotten culture, or remnants of a much older global civilization whose traces have been mostly erased by time and rising seas? Explorers who have descended into these depths describe the ruins as eerily quiet, with the water seeming to hold its breath around them. Stone streets stretch into shadows, corridors that might once have been avenues, and walls rise like silent witnesses to a past long submerged. The environment itself seems to preserve a story that is just beyond reach. Currents shift sediment, obscure carvings, and scatter debris, making every dive a mixture of revelation and frustration. Cameras capture shapes that look deliberate, almost architectural, yet the deeper one probes, the more questions arise. Local lore hints at what might have been. Fishermen speak of underwater anomalies, circular formations, and unusually flat surfaces that sometimes appear during storms or unusually low tides. These anecdotes, passed down over generations, suggest that the sea has been hiding mysteries for centuries, perhaps millennia. Could these structures be the remains of cities lost to a rising sea, swallowed by the tides that followed the last ice age? If so, what caused their sudden submersion? Was it gradual coastal erosion, catastrophic flooding, or some other cataclysm long forgotten by history? Beyond the geological and anecdotal evidence, there are hints of human intention embedded in the stones themselves. Certain blocks appear shaped, not merely split. Corners are squared, terraces level, and some formations suggest pathways that once guided movement through the city. Researchers remain cautious, recognizing the limitations of studying a site so deep underwater, yet the consistency of shapes and patterns compels a closer look. Was this a ceremonial center, a hub of commerce, or even a city aligned with celestial observations? The mystery endures because, while speculation can flourish, direct evidence, artifacts, inscriptions, tools, remains almost entirely absent. Some fringe theories propose that these ruins are connected to ancient global migrations or lost civilizations that predate recorded history, civilizations whose knowledge of engineering and architecture might have been advanced beyond what is acknowledged in mainstream archaeology. Others suggest these formations may have been coastal cities, intentionally built at low elevations, and later submerged by rising ocean levels after the Ice Age. The scientific community debates, sometimes vigorously, weighing geological explanations against architectural plausibility. And in this tension between evidence and imagination, the underwater ruins retain their profound allure. Diving into the site is not merely a technical challenge, it is an exercise in perspective. The ruins lie beneath hundreds of meters of water, illuminated by submersible lights that reveal sharp angles and looming terraces. Shadows play across surfaces that may have been walked by people whose names and lives are forever lost. Each block invites interpretation, a piece of art, a wall, a pathway, a puzzle. Yet none yield their full meaning. The site is simultaneously tangible and elusive, present and unreachable, a ghostly testimony to human endeavor, natural processes, or perhaps a combination of both. As we linger on this sunken city, it is impossible not to reflect on the vastness of history, on how much remains hidden beneath the oceans, awaiting discovery. What civilizations have been erased by rising tides or forgotten in the depths of time? What knowledge, lost alongside these submerged stones, might challenge everything we believe about human history and the rise of civilization? And above all, what remains for us to find, just beyond our reach, waiting silently beneath the Cuban waters? The underwater ruins of Cuba, like the headless Vikings of Dorset before them, remind us that history is far from complete. Some stories are written in stone, submerged and silenced by time. Yet in those very stones, in the carefully arranged blocks and terraces, lies the enduring question: who built this and why? And in the quiet, green depths of the Caribbean, the mystery remains, beckoning explorers and dreamers alike to look deeper, think harder, and wonder what secrets may still lie hidden beneath the waves. From the sunken mysteries of Cuba, our journey now rises above the ocean and drifts into the misted highlands of northern Laos, to a landscape both stark and enigmatic, the Plain of Jars. Here, across an expanse of rolling hills and dense tropical foliage, lie thousands of stone jars, scattered over the terrain like silent sentinels of a forgotten world. The first time one steps onto these plains, the scale and the strangeness of the sight are immediately striking. Some jars stand over 3 meters tall, carved from solid sandstone or granite, while others are partially buried or toppled, their weight and size emphasizing the monumental effort required to move and position them. The air is heavy with humidity, the scent of earth and leaves mingling with the faint echo of winds that ripple across the stones, carrying centuries of unanswered questions. The jars themselves are simple in appearance, yet profoundly mysterious. They are mostly cylindrical, some with rounded bases or flared rims, their surfaces carved with faint patterns or left unadorned. Scattered among the hills, they sometimes cluster in groups of dozens, in other areas lying in isolation, as if deliberately arranged according to a logic we no longer understand. Despite decades of study, no inscriptions clearly explain their purpose, and no written records from the region provide a direct answer. Their function, origin, and the civilization that created them remain shrouded in the fog of prehistory. Archaeological studies have established that the jars date back to at least 500 BCE to 500 CE, during a period when the region was inhabited by early Iron Age cultures. Excavations near the jars have revealed fragments of human remains, pottery, and tools, suggesting that the jars were closely tied to funerary practices. One prevailing theory holds that they were used to contain human remains, perhaps for cremation or as ossuaries, a transitional step in elaborate burial rituals. The sheer number of jars, often found near burial sites, implies a society with complex mortuary customs and social hierarchies. Yet the jars themselves offer no explicit explanation for their precise placement, scale, or the striking uniformity of their design. Despite these facts, much about the Plain of Jars defies conventional understanding. How did ancient peoples, with tools that would be considered primitive by modern standards, transport and shape stones weighing several tons, and position them so deliberately across uneven terrain? What principles dictated their placement? Astronomical alignment, social status, territorial markers, or was the arrangement symbolic in a way we can no longer decipher? The questions multiply when one observes certain jars with lids, some of which are carved with geometric patterns or simple iconography, raising the possibility of ceremonial or spiritual significance that transcends mere burial. Local folklore adds layers to the mystery. Villagers speak of spirits that guard the jars, of legends describing giants or supernatural beings who built them in a single night, and of rituals passed down through generations that hint at ancient reverence for these silent monoliths. While anthropology and archaeology seek rational explanations, these stories underscore the human impulse to assign meaning to what is unexplained, to imbue the landscape with memory, reverence, and narrative. Could these oral traditions contain fragments of lost knowledge, symbolic truths that survive even as the historical record has vanished? The Plain of Jars has also faced the scars of more recent history. The region was heavily bombed during the secret war in Laos in the 1960s and 1970s, leaving behind unexploded ordnance that complicates excavation and obscures portions of the site. Yet even amid this violence, the jars persist, scattered across the hills like reminders of a deeper, enduring human story. Archaeologists navigate both physical and historical obstacles, piecing together evidence from fragments of pottery, human remains, and stone tool marks, each fragment a clue to a civilization that deliberately left little direct trace. Speculative theories extend the intrigue further. Some researchers propose that the jar's arrangement may have corresponded to celestial or calendrical systems, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Others suggest they may have been markers for ritual landscapes, spaces designed for communal ceremonies or initiation rites, their design encoding spiritual or cosmological knowledge now lost. And yet, despite the allure of these ideas, every theory remains provisional. Each observation leads to new questions rather than definitive answers. The jars are simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary, plain in form, monumental in scale, and timeless in their mystery. Walking among them, one senses the deliberate absence of human presence. The jars are empty, yet they feel inhabited by the echoes of lives long past. Each step across the plain is an encounter with both scale and silence. The immense weight of stone contrasts with the open sky above, emphasizing how small we are in relation to the forces, human, natural, or cosmic, that shape this place. What guided the hands that carved these stones? What rituals, beliefs, or ambitions inspired their creation? And, perhaps most compellingly, what remains hidden beneath the surface? Buried jars, forgotten artifacts, or traces of human activity that may never be recovered? The plain of jars challenges our assumptions about early civilizations. It asks us to consider the sophistication of societies that existed without writing systems, monumental empires, or enduring records, yet who left a mark across the landscape so deliberate that it continues to draw fascination centuries later. In the quiet of the hills, amid mist and wind, the jars do not answer. They provoke. They invite inquiry, contemplation, and imagination. They are monuments to a past that resists full comprehension, reminders that human history is broader, stranger, and more enigmatic than we often realize. And so, the mystery endures. The plain of jars, like the underwater ruins of Cuba that preceded it, stands as a testament to human ingenuity, ambition, and the unknown. They are silent witnesses to lives and cultures we may never fully understand, yet their presence challenges us to look deeper, to question the assumptions of history, and to wonder what other secrets the earth still keeps, waiting patiently beneath soil, water, and stone. From the misted highlands of Laos, where stone jars rise as silent sentinels across the land, our journey now moves northward across Europe to a landscape of bogs, reeds, and cold, still waters in Denmark. Here in the soft, acidic soils of Jutland lies a discovery that has fascinated archaeologists, historians, and the public for decades. A body preserved almost perfectly for more than 2,000 years, suspended in time yet whispering vivid stories of a distant past. This is the Tollund Man, an Iron Age individual whose death and preservation continue to provoke questions about ritual, society, and the boundaries of human understanding. The bog where he was found is not dramatic in appearance. It is quiet, flat, and seemingly mundane, with mist rising off the black waters in the early morning and the faint rustle of reeds marking the edges of the landscape. Yet beneath its surface, the soil possesses an uncanny ability to preserve what would otherwise decay, a natural alchemy of peat, acidity, and anaerobic conditions that slows decomposition and keeps flesh, hair, and even internal organs remarkably intact. It was here, in May of 1950, that workers stumbled upon a body that looked startlingly like a man asleep rather than deceased, his features calm, his head slightly tilted, his face framed by a thin cap of leather. Radiocarbon dating places Tollund Man in the 4th century BCE, an era when Denmark was a land of tribal societies, early agriculture, and intricate belief systems. At first glance, he might appear unremarkable, but the preservation is extraordinary. The skin is darkened by the bog but supple. The facial expressions are hauntingly clear, almost as though he could breathe if awakened. The leather cap and noose still intact around his neck tell of a sudden, violent death, but the circumstances are far from certain. Scholars suggest he was executed by hanging, but why? Was this punishment, a sacrifice, or a combination of both, dictated by customs we can only partially reconstruct? Tollund Man's body provides insight into Iron Age life in Denmark, but it also leaves us with mysteries. Examination of his stomach contents revealed a final meal of porridge composed of barley and seeds, consumed hours before his death, suggesting he had not been traveling far or fasting. His body shows no sign of disease, injury, or malnutrition, indicating that he was likely a healthy adult in his prime. Yet despite this, he met a sudden and deliberate death, executed with precision. Was he chosen at random? A victim of political or social tension? Or was he part of a ritual practice, an offering to appease gods, ensure fertility of the land, or maintain cosmic order in ways lost to history? Some scholars propose that Tollund Man represents a broader pattern of bog bodies across northern Europe, each discovered with carefully arranged positioning, sometimes with bindings or tools nearby, often in locations that appear ceremonial rather than practical. The uniformity of these deaths across centuries raises profound questions. Were these communities practicing a consistent ritual, perhaps as an integral part of their spiritual life? Or were these acts of justice codified in ways we will never fully understand? And if ritual, what beliefs or cosmologies informed these decisions, compelling a community to offer a life in such a precise, formalized manner? The mystery deepens when considering the preservation itself. Tollund Man's features are remarkably intact, yet we do not fully understand the chemical processes that allowed his skin, hair, and internal organs to survive intact for over 2 millennia. Was it purely the bog, the peat, and anaerobic conditions? Or did ancient peoples, intentionally or unintentionally, manipulate the environment to achieve this preservation? Some fringe theories have suggested deliberate embalming techniques, or even that Tollund Man was chosen in part because of his physical condition or characteristics. While such ideas remain speculative, they underscore the profound strangeness of a body that feels alive despite being so ancient. Standing before Tollund Man, even today in the Silkeborg Museum, one cannot help but feel a profound connection to the past. His features, calm and composed, invite reflection. What did he think in his final moments? Did he understand the meaning of his death? Or was he simply a participant in customs dictated by a society whose logic is now opaque? And beyond the individual, what do such deaths tell us about Iron Age Denmark? The social hierarchies, religious practices, and human relationships that shaped a world so different yet somehow connected to our own. The Tollund Man also reminds us of the delicate boundary between life and memory. His noose, still intact, suggests finality, yet his serene expression conveys something else. A quiet dignity preserved against time, a body that has become a messenger. In the meticulous study of his remains, examinations of hair, stomach contents, bone structure, and even microscopic traces of soil, researchers piece together fragments of an existence and a society long gone. Yet the full story eludes us. The reasons for his death, the beliefs surrounding it, and the cultural significance of bog burials are only partially illuminated, leaving a space for wonder, reflection, and sometimes unease. Speculative interpretations abound, though always grounded in observation. Was Tollund Man a sacrificial offering chosen to sustain the fertility of the land or to appease unseen deities? Was his death a form of execution for crimes real or perceived, intended as a lesson to his community? Or was he part of a more complex ritual, a liminal participant whose life and death were entwined with spiritual practices lost to memory? Each theory is built on fragments, yet none can provide certainty, leaving us to contemplate the intersection of human intention, belief, and the passage of time. The bog itself is part of the narrative, a quiet, liminal space where water, peat, and earth conspire to preserve what the rest of the world would consume. It is a landscape of contrasts, nurturing yet lethal, calm yet containing evidence of violence, ordinary yet extraordinary. Tollund Man is inseparable from this environment. His preservation is as much a story of nature's intervention as it is of human choice, and the interplay of these forces raises profound questions about our understanding of mortality, ritual, and memory. And so, Tollund Man remains both human and enigmatic. He offers insights into diet, health, and life in Iron Age Denmark. Yet he defies full comprehension. He is a reminder that the past is not always linear or fully accessible, that history leaves traces that are simultaneously revealing and elusive. What does it mean to live in a society where death could become both punishment and ritual? How much of human belief and practice remains buried, waiting for the right moment, the right conditions, to reveal itself? And in looking at Tollund Man, preserved so perfectly, do we see a reflection of ourselves, our mortality, or the vast, uncharted landscape of human history yet to be fully understood? The Tollund Man endures as a bridge across time. He is more than an archaeological find. He is a touchstone for reflection on life, death, and the intricate patterns of human society. Even as science illuminates aspects of his existence, the deeper questions, the why, the ritual, the meaning, remain unresolved. He is a silent witness to a world that has vanished, yet through him, that world continues to speak, inviting us to listen, to wonder, and to question what other truths might still lie hidden in the bogs, waiting quietly for discovery. From the misty bogs of Denmark, where the Tollund Man rests in suspended time, our journey now moves south across the Mediterranean to the bustling, sun-drenched city of Alexandria, Egypt. Here, among the modern streets and the echoing footsteps of history, a discovery emerged that seemed to defy centuries of understanding. A massive, ominous sarcophagus carved from black granite so dense and heavy that it weighs an estimated 30 tons. The sheer scale of the sarcophagus, lying undisturbed in a construction site in 2018, immediately captured worldwide attention. It is not merely the size or material that astonishes, but the aura of foreboding it projects, as though the stone itself is reluctant to release its secrets. The sarcophagus measures more than 2 meters in height and over 2 meters in width, with a lid so tightly sealed that when researchers attempted to lift it, they were met with the resistance of centuries. Its surface is plain, almost minimalistic, devoid of elaborate hieroglyphs or carvings that are characteristic of Egyptian burial practices of the late Hellenistic or early Roman periods. This absence is itself perplexing. In a culture renowned for meticulous funerary inscriptions, symbolic imagery, and spiritual guidance for the afterlife, why would such a tomb appear intentionally blank, its walls black and unyielding, offering no clue to its occupant or purpose? The sarcophagus lies submerged in groundwater, adding a layer of complexity to its preservation. When archaeologists first attempted to open it, an ominous green liquid, thick, viscous, and unlike any ordinary water, spilled from its cracks. Laboratory analysis later revealed high levels of hydrogen sulfide and other organic compounds, a chemical cocktail suggesting long-term decomposition under anaerobic conditions. Yet the sheer volume and unusual composition of the liquid defy conventional understanding of burial processes. It raises questions about what or who might have been placed within this stone enclosure, and why such conditions were allowed, or even orchestrated, to persist for centuries. Dating the sarcophagus has proved challenging. Archaeologists have linked it stylistically to the late Ptolemaic period, roughly circa 1st century BCE to 1st century CE, a time when Alexandria was a thriving hub of trade, philosophy, and cultural fusion. Yet even this attribution raises further questions. Why does such a massive sarcophagus exist in a relatively unremarkable location? Was it commissioned for someone of extraordinary social or political significance, or does it point to a figure entirely lost to history, whose name and deeds were intentionally erased? Opening the sarcophagus, even partially, remains perilous. Experts have approached it with caution, mindful of both the toxic gases and the sheer weight of the granite lid. Modern forensic and chemical techniques have been deployed, yet the sarcophagus guards its contents jealously. The mystery is heightened by the surrounding context. Unlike most Ptolemaic tombs, which are part of broader necropolises or funerary complexes, this sarcophagus sits isolated, suggesting a purpose or a status that differs from the ordinary burial. Was this a tomb intended to intimidate, to awe, or to conceal something profoundly significant? Theories abound, blending the known and the speculative. Some historians suggest the sarcophagus may have belonged to a member of the Ptolemaic elite, perhaps even an individual whose death was politically sensitive or controversial. Others, fascinated by the chemical peculiarities, have hypothesized that it could have been part of alchemical or ritual practices, an experimental approach to preservation or even transformation of the deceased. The unusual black granite, the size, the greenish liquid, and the absence of inscriptions feed into an almost cinematic narrative, a tomb that is both warning and sanctuary, deliberate in its secrecy, designed to speak in silence rather than words. Despite the scientific analysis, much remains speculative. Who could have commanded such a sarcophagus, and for what reason? Could the individual within have been a religious figure, a political rival, or someone involved in the occult traditions that occasionally intersected with Ptolemaic culture? And what does the toxic green liquid signify? Is it merely the byproduct of decomposition under extreme conditions? Or was it intentionally engineered to deter interference, to preserve, or even to perform a symbolic function lost to the ages? Some observers have noted parallels between the black sarcophagus and other enigmatic burial practices across the ancient world, from bog bodies in northern Europe to sunken structures in the Mediterranean and beyond. These comparisons hint at recurring themes in human culture: a fascination with death, an urge to preserve, and a desire to mark the boundary between the living and the dead with material, sometimes monumental, artifacts. Yet each culture interprets this boundary differently, and the black sarcophagus stands as a particularly opaque example, offering no inscriptions, no mythological cues, and no narrative beyond its formidable presence. Local urban legends have sprung up around the site, adding layers of cultural imagination to the historical enigma. Some claim the sarcophagus was cursed, that it carries a malevolent energy, or that those who approached it too closely experienced sudden illness or misfortune. While these stories are anecdotal and unverified, they reflect a universal human response to objects that resist understanding: fear, reverence, and the projection of narrative onto what is unknown. Even scientists cannot deny the psychological impact of confronting a stone container so absolute in its containment, so indifferent to centuries of human curiosity. Standing before the sarcophagus today, one feels a profound duality: awe at the technical skill required to carve and transport such a mass of granite, and unease at the void of knowledge it presents. How was it moved? weighed down with engineering expertise we may only partially grasp. Why the minimalistic design in an era of ornate burials? And most compellingly, what lies inside? A body, perhaps, or something even more enigmatic. The questions persist because the artifact is complete yet incomplete in its communicative power. It is a historical object that offers both presence and absence, reality and suggestion, simultaneously tangible and elusive. The Black Sarcophagus of Alexandria challenges assumptions about power, mortality, and human ambition. It reminds us that history is not always recorded in texts or inscriptions. Sometimes it is encoded in stone, in substance, in structures that resist interpretation. And as much as modern archaeology can illuminate chemical composition, dating, and construction methods, the human element, the choices, fears, and beliefs that motivated its creation, remains tantalizingly out of reach. We are left to consider the intentions of those who commissioned it and the meaning it held within its original context, aware that the answers may never be fully recovered. And so, the Black Sarcophagus endures as a monument to mystery. It is a testament to human ingenuity, secrecy, and the ways in which the past can challenge the present. For now, the toxic green liquid, the dense granite, and the empty, or perhaps hidden, space within continue to defy explanation. A silent witness to a world we can glimpse but not fully comprehend. As we ponder its secrets, we are reminded that history is often less about what we know and more about what remains hidden, waiting patiently beneath the surface, daring us to ask the questions for which no clear answers exist. From the sun-drenched streets of Alexandria, where the Black Sarcophagus guards its toxic, enigmatic contents, our journey now moves deep into the rugged highlands of northern Ethiopia, to a site where stone and faith intertwine in a manner both awe-inspiring and perplexing. Nestled within the dramatic landscape of the Lasta Mountains lies the town of Lalibela, home to a network of churches carved entirely from living rock. Here, across steep valleys and volcanic formations, 11 monumental structures rise not above the earth, but from it, hewn downward in a feat of engineering and devotion that continues to defy complete explanation. Approaching Lalibela, one is immediately struck by the scale and precision of the churches. They are not built in the conventional sense. They are sculpted, excavated, and isolated from the surrounding terrain, as if the mountains themselves were molded to spiritual purpose. Each church is carved from a single block of volcanic tuff, the interiors hollowed out to create chapels, passageways, and altars, while the exteriors are defined by sharp geometric precision, columns, and sometimes intricate reliefs. The effort required to remove hundreds of tons of rock, to sculpt with such accuracy, and to maintain structural integrity over centuries is almost unimaginable, raising the first of many questions. How did artisans of the 12th and 13th centuries achieve such monumental work with the tools known to be available at the time? Historical records attribute the construction to King Lalibela, who ruled in the late 12th century, and to a vision inspired by the desire to create a new Jerusalem in Ethiopia. The church's alignment, layout, and orientation suggest careful planning, not only for worship, but also for symbolic representation. Paths and trenches connect the structures, sometimes via narrow tunnels carved into the rock, giving the complex the appearance of a hidden city beneath the mountains. Yet despite these records, significant aspects remain unexplained. The precision of the carving, the labor required to move massive stone volumes without mechanized tools, and the speed with which the project was reportedly completed stretch credulity and invite speculation about methods, organization, and possible outside knowledge. Archaeologists have long marveled at the technical expertise evident in Lalibela. The smooth surfaces, accurate angles, and sheer scale suggest a mastery of stoneworking far beyond what is usually attributed to the region in the medieval period. Some scholars posit that local traditions of rock carving and knowledge of volcanic tuff properties were sufficient for the task, while others note that the precision seems almost preternatural. Could there have been techniques or knowledge, now lost, that enabled workers to manipulate stone with such efficiency? And if so, how widespread might such knowledge have been in other regions or cultures now vanished from the historical record? The spiritual dimension of Lalibela cannot be overlooked. Each church is oriented along axes thought to mirror sacred geography, often aligned with celestial markers, biblical references, or Ethiopian Orthodox symbolism. The Church of St. George, carved in the shape of a cross and isolated in its trench, stands as the most iconic example. Its walls are sheer, its corners precise, and the entire structure is sunk below ground level, giving it the appearance of emerging from the mountain itself. Visitors often describe a sense of awe, almost as though the space carries an invisible energy, a resonance born of centuries of prayer, pilgrimage, and devotion. Yet the combination of engineering and spirituality invites further questions. Was the complex conceived purely as a religious statement, or might there have been other purposes, social, political, or symbolic, encoded in its design? Local legend adds layers to the mystery. Some accounts suggest that angels assisted the construction, guiding the workers through night and day, ensuring the temples were completed with divine precision. While such stories are spiritual in nature, they reflect a recognition of the remarkable, almost otherworldly achievement that the churches represent. Could these narratives be metaphorical, gestures toward explaining a feat that seemed impossible even to those who witnessed it firsthand? Or might they hint at methods or organizational systems that were deliberately kept secret, preserved through oral tradition rather than written record? The broader landscape around Lalibela reinforces the sense of deliberate mystery. The churches are connected by a network of trenches and passageways, carved with the same precision as the buildings themselves. Water channels, courtyards, and tombs are integrated seamlessly into the rock, forming a cohesive urban spiritual plan that has endured for centuries. Yet despite extensive study, there is little consensus about why certain churches are isolated while others cluster, why particular alignments were chosen, or what specific rituals dictated the choice of carving sites. Each observation invites a new layer of inquiry, a new question about intention, knowledge, and cultural meaning. Some researchers have ventured more speculative ideas, suggesting that Lalibela's construction might reflect lost technologies or knowledge, perhaps inspired by long-distance cultural contacts or by artisans whose expertise was unusually advanced for the era. Others focus on the symbolic geography of the site, noting correspondences with the Holy Land and proposing that Lalibela represents an architectural attempt to create a spiritual map on the Ethiopian highlands. While definitive proof remains elusive, these interpretations underscore the profound ingenuity behind the project and the enduring sense of mystery that surrounds it. Walking through Lalibela today, one is struck by the tactile connection to the past. The walls echo centuries of prayer, footsteps, and whispered devotion. Light filters through narrow windows, tracing patterns across stone altars and carved corridors. The silence is heavy, yet not oppressive. It is a presence, a reminder of the human capacity to shape environment in service of belief, ambition, and meaning. How much of Lalibela's story is lost to time, embedded in subtle details of construction, placement, or orientation that modern observers might miss? How much knowledge was deliberately encoded in stone, intended only for those initiated into sacred or royal traditions? The Rock-Hewn churches of Lalibela remind us that history is often layered, elusive, and profound. They are monuments to human devotion, skill, and ingenuity, yet they also challenge conventional understanding of what was possible for a medieval African kingdom. Did the architects and laborers rely solely on known techniques, or did they employ methods now lost to memory? Were these constructions motivated purely by religion, or were they also instruments of political power, social cohesion, or even cosmological calculation? Each question invites contemplation rather than immediate answer, and each answer hints at further mysteries still waiting to be explored. And so, the mystery of Lalibela endures. Its churches, carved from living rock, embody both what is known and what remains hidden, engineering feats, spiritual devotion, and historical puzzles intertwined. They stand as silent witnesses to a society that sought to shape not only stone, but experience, perception, and perhaps even the divine itself. For those who walk its trenches, pass through its tunnels, and stand before its towering monoliths, Lalibela is both tangible and elusive, offering insights while guarding countless secrets. What remains unseen, unrecorded, or unrecognized in these mountains? What knowledge, faith, or skill has been lost to the centuries, waiting to be rediscovered, or perhaps understood only in the presence of wonder itself? From the highlands of Ethiopia, where stone and faith converge in the remarkable rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, our journey moves further back in time and eastward, across deserts and rivers, to the cradle of civilization itself, Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Here, amid the ruins of ancient cities like Ur, Nippur, and Eridu, archaeologists have uncovered a collection of artifacts that continues to baffle and intrigue scholars: the Anunnaki tablets. These clay tablets, inscribed with cuneiform script, seem to tell a story both historical and mythological, a record of humanity's earliest understanding of gods, kings, and the foundations of civilization. Yet, for all that has been deciphered, they also contain passages that resist interpretation, hints of knowledge that may lie beyond conventional historical frameworks. Approaching these tablets, even in photographs or museum displays, one is immediately struck by their tactile presence. Each piece of clay, hardened by time yet fragile under the fingers, carries impressions of stylus marks made thousands of years ago. The cuneiform signs, wedge-shaped, deliberate, and repeated, appear almost hypnotic, a geometric dance across the surface that encodes language, law, myth, and memory. Some tablets are small, easily held in one hand. Others are monumental, painstakingly inscribed with detailed genealogies, astronomical observations, or accounts of divine decree. The visual impact is complemented by the knowledge that these objects were not merely records. They were vessels of authority, sacred objects that conveyed the will of gods to kings, or encoded the knowledge deemed essential for the continuity of society. The Anunnaki themselves, referenced throughout these tablets, occupy a space that straddles history and myth. According to Mesopotamian tradition, the Anunnaki were powerful deities, often associated with creation, fertility, and the administration of divine justice. They appear in texts such as the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Gilgamesh, but the tablets recovered in excavations sometimes provide details that diverge from mainstream mythological narratives. Names, events, and descriptions appear with a precision that suggests record-keeping, yet the context is often ambiguous. Were these accounts meant to be historical, mythological, or a combination of both? Were they the work of scribes interpreting divine instruction, or attempts to encode knowledge about the cosmos and humanity in symbolic form? Archaeologists have dated many of these tablets to the 3rd millennium BCE, during the height of Sumerian civilization. They reveal a society of extraordinary sophistication, capable of writing, record-keeping, trade, and administration at a level unprecedented for the era. Yet embedded within practical records, ledgers of grain, labor, and tribute, are passages describing the Anunnaki as agents who intervened in human affairs, descending from the heavens, teaching knowledge, and establishing social and political structures. The texts suggest an intertwining of the divine and the human, a worldview in which gods actively shaped the destiny of mortals, leaving behind a complex legacy that continues to challenge our understanding. Some tablets describe events with startling specificity: the allocation of land, construction of ziggurats, the organization of labor, and even astronomical calculations. Yet in passages that are less straightforward, the language shifts into descriptions of beings of great power and knowledge, beings who arrived from distant lands, sometimes associated with the stars, and who interacted with humanity in ways that suggest an advanced understanding of science, governance, or engineering. Were these merely allegorical stories, symbolic frameworks to explain natural phenomena and social order, or do they hint at knowledge or experiences now lost to history? The ambiguity fuels speculation and captivates the imagination. The physicality of the tablets themselves adds to the intrigue. Many are broken, fragmented, or corroded, their edges worn by centuries of handling, transport, and burial. In some cases, multiple tablets appear to be part of larger sequences, almost like volumes of a lost history, yet we have only fragments. These gaps in the record make interpretation difficult, leaving scholars to reconstruct narratives from incomplete evidence. How much information has been irrevocably lost? How many stories were encoded and then scattered, buried under layers of sand, conflict, and the passage of millennia? And could what remains hint at even greater knowledge once preserved in Mesopotamia, knowledge we may never fully access? Interpretations of the Anunnaki tablets have ranged from the strictly academic to the more speculative. Mainstream historians focus on their context within Sumerian culture, the integration of religion, governance, and cosmology into practical administration. Others, intrigued by certain passages that appear to describe advanced engineering, long journeys, or interactions with mysterious beings, propose alternative theories. Some fringe interpretations suggest that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial visitors, whose arrival and guidance were encoded in myth and tablet alike. While such theories remain speculative, they underscore the power of the tablets to provoke questions that extend far beyond conventional historical boundaries. Reading the tablets, one senses a deliberate layering of meaning. Practical information, mythic narrative, and symbolic representation coexist on the same surfaces, challenging modern scholars to distinguish historical fact from allegorical storytelling. Why did the scribes choose to encode these stories in clay? Was it solely for record-keeping, or was there a spiritual, ritual, or protective function in preserving these accounts in a material that could withstand centuries? And what of the cosmological knowledge embedded within some of the astronomical calculations? Did it arise from observation alone, or from insight into patterns that we are only beginning to recognize? The geographic context of Mesopotamia itself enhances the mystery. The rivers Tigris and Euphrates shaped early civilization, providing fertile soil and facilitating trade and communication. Cities rose and fell, leaving behind temples, palaces, and burial sites. In this landscape, the Anunnaki tablets serve as a bridge between the tangible and the intangible, a record of both human ingenuity and spiritual imagination. The tablet's durability contrasts sharply with the fragility of oral tradition, emphasizing the scribe's intent to communicate across generations. Yet even as they endure, much of their meaning remains obscured, veiled behind cuneiform signs and cryptic phrasing that invites contemplation rather than immediate understanding. The tablets also raise profound questions about human origins and development. By documenting interventions by beings of exceptional power, the texts challenge conventional timelines of technological, political, and social progress. Were these stories of divine guidance, metaphorical instruction, or literal accounts of interaction? Did the scribes intend them to be historical records, or were they encoded as allegories for human understanding, morality, and the organization of society? Each possibility opens a window into the minds and culture of one of the world's earliest civilizations, while leaving us with tantalizing uncertainty. For those who study the tablets today, the experience is immersive and humbling. Tracing the wedge-shaped marks, imagining the scribes at work with clay and stylus, one senses the weight of centuries, the meticulous care, and the layers of meaning embedded in each line. The Anunnaki themselves remain elusive, sometimes gods, sometimes overseers, sometimes agents of a plan beyond our understanding. The more we analyze, the more the tablets resist simple explanation. Their messages encoded with a sophistication that challenges modern interpretation. And so, the Anunnaki tablets endure as a monument to human curiosity and cosmic imagination. They are both artifacts of civilization and windows into a worldview that sought to bridge the mortal and divine, the known and the mysterious. Even with advanced translation, chemical analysis, and archaeological context, the deeper questions remain. Who were the Anunnaki? What knowledge did they impart, and why was it recorded in such painstaking detail? How much of their story has been lost to time, and how much remains encoded in fragments yet to be deciphered? The tablets invite us to reflect not only on the civilizations that created them, but also on the human drive to understand, to document, and to seek meaning in the unknown. They remind us that history is rarely linear, that knowledge can be preserved, hidden, and transformed, and that even the most ancient records may carry echoes of truths we have yet to fully comprehend. In the clay of Mesopotamia, the past endures, and through it, the mysteries of the Anunnaki continue to speak, silently urging us to look deeper, to question, and to wonder what other secrets the world still holds beneath sand, stone, and time. From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, where the Anunnaki tablets whisper of gods, kings, and lost knowledge, our journey now sweeps northwest across Europe to a landscape both verdant and mysterious. The rolling hills surrounding the city of Visoko, Bosnia. Here, amidst forested slopes, rivers, and valleys, rise formations that have captivated archaeologists, explorers, and curious travelers alike, the so-called Bosnian pyramids. At first glance, they appear as ordinary hills, their shapes softened by centuries of erosion, vegetation, and human activity. Yet, when examined from certain angles, the slopes display striking geometric precision, flat faces, angular ridges, and symmetrical alignments that suggest intentional construction rather than natural formation. The largest of these formations, Visochika Hill, dubbed the Pyramid of the Sun, towers over the surrounding terrain, its peak aligned in approximate cardinal directions, reminiscent of pyramidal structures across the ancient world. Nearby, smaller hills form a cluster, sometimes called the Pyramid of the Moon and the Pyramid of the Dragon, creating a complex that seems to echo the urban or ceremonial layouts of faraway civilizations. The landscape is shrouded in morning mist and forest canopy, giving the hills an ethereal quality, as if they rise not merely from the earth but from memory itself, conjuring the possibility of a civilization long hidden beneath layers of soil, time, and myth. Excavations and investigations, initiated in the early 2000s, revealed stone terraces, tunnels, and concrete-like blocks embedded within the hills. Proponents of the theory that these are artificial pyramids argue that the uniformity, orientation, and material suggest deliberate engineering rather than geological coincidence. Critics, however, note that natural processes, tectonic activity, sedimentation, and glacial erosion can sometimes create formations that appear deceptively regular. Yet the more one studies the hills, the more questions arise. How could such massive structures, if indeed constructed, have been built thousands of years ago, with technology and organization that remains largely unknown? And why here, in Bosnia, a region not typically associated with large-scale pyramidal construction? Dating the structures is contentious, with proponents suggesting ages ranging from 12,000 to 30,000 years, placing them far earlier than known civilizations in Egypt or Mesoamerica. Radiocarbon tests on organic material found in associated tunnels suggest ancient human activity, though the exact timeline and purpose remain ambiguous. The complexity of the tunnels themselves adds to the intrigue. Some are paved with large stone blocks, while others feature chambers with unusual mineral deposits. Carbon dating and mineral analysis have yielded unusual results. Certain materials suggest human intervention, but the origin and method of construction are debated. Could these tunnels represent an underground city, ceremonial space, or energy grid? And if so, why has so little been preserved above ground to indicate the existence of a sophisticated prehistoric society? The Bosnian pyramids are often compared to other megalithic sites around the world. Like the pyramids of Egypt, they appear to follow specific orientations, perhaps aligned with celestial bodies or solstices. Like ancient structures in South America, they combine monumental scale with labor-intensive construction techniques. Yet the absence of written records, inscriptions, or corroborating artifacts leaves them shrouded in mystery. Were they purely ceremonial, political, spiritual, or do they represent a lost chapter of human history, one in which early societies achieved architectural feats now unaccounted for in the archaeological record? Some researchers have posited that the Bosnian pyramids may have been centers for energy production or channeling, citing unusual electromagnetic readings in and around the tunnels. Sensors have detected lower levels of natural radioactivity, temperature anomalies, and air currents that defy simple geological explanation. While these claims remain controversial, they suggest that the site's significance may extend beyond the physical, into realms of spiritual, symbolic, or technological function lost to time. Could it be that the builders understood principles of geology or energy that were centuries ahead of recorded human knowledge? Local folklore and oral traditions add layers of cultural resonance to the mystery. Villagers recount stories of hidden chambers, buried treasure, and ancient rituals associated with the hills. Some speak of the pyramids as sacred spaces, imbued with protective and healing energies. Others caution that the sites should be approached with respect, hinting at taboos or ceremonies that may have been practiced by generations long before modern settlement. These narratives, while not verifiable in the scientific sense, offer insight into the human perception of place and the way landscape, legend, and memory intertwine. The visual experience of the pyramids is striking. From certain vantage points, the slopes reveal triangular faces and sharp edges, rising above the surrounding forests with an imposing symmetry. Walking through the surrounding valleys and tunnels, one senses the effort, labor, and vision required to manipulate stone on such a scale. Even if natural processes shaped the hills, the tunnels and terraces suggest human interaction and intent. The mixture of natural and artificial creates a liminal space, part geological wonder, part archaeological enigma. How much of the site is sculpted by human hands, and how much is nature's own design? And does the answer even matter? Or is the mystery itself part of the site's enduring power? Excavation teams have discovered ceramic fragments, tools, and human remains in nearby layers, suggesting human activity that may date back millennia. Yet these artifacts rarely provide definitive answers. Were the pyramids ceremonial centers, burial sites, or settlements? And if so, why is the scale and precision so unprecedented, especially for a period not traditionally associated with large-scale architecture? The puzzle is compounded by the interplay of politics, tourism, and academic skepticism. Enthusiasts argue passionately for recognition as one of the world's oldest pyramidal complexes, while critics caution against overinterpretation, emphasizing natural geological processes. This tension itself underscores a fundamental truth. The Bosnian pyramids, like many archaeological enigmas, exist at the intersection of evidence and imagination. The geography of Visoko adds further layers to the mystery. The hills are aligned roughly along north-south and east-west axes, sometimes in correspondence with surrounding rivers and valleys. Could these alignments be intentional, reflecting astronomical, religious, or territorial considerations? Or are they coincidental, natural formations that humans later adapted for practical or ceremonial use? In either case, the landscape has inspired wonder for centuries, from ancient shepherds to modern researchers, drawing attention to the ways humans interpret, inhabit, and interact with space. Speculative theories abound. Some suggest that the pyramids are remnants of a lost civilization predating known history and leaving only stone as evidence of human ingenuity. Others argue that the pyramids may have served as astronomical observatories or as repositories of sacred knowledge encoded in their geometry and orientation. Whether these interpretations are accurate or not, they reflect the profound human impulse to find meaning, pattern, and purpose in structures that challenge conventional understanding. Walking among the terraces, through the tunnels, and along the sharp ridges, one cannot help but feel the weight of time and mystery. The pyramids, whether shaped by nature, human hands, or a combination of both, exert a silent authority over the landscape. They demand observation, reflection, and respect. Each stone, each slope, and each chamber is a fragment of a story, a record of human ambition, spiritual expression, or both, preserved against the erosion of centuries. And so, the Bosnian pyramids remain a site of wonder and debate, a place where natural formation and human ingenuity intertwine in ways that resist simple explanation. They challenge assumptions about prehistoric capability, chronology, and the universality of monumental architecture. They invite us to ponder the capacity of early societies to shape landscapes, to encode meaning in stone, and to leave legacies that endure long after written records vanish. What knowledge, technology, or spiritual insight may lie buried beneath the terraces, awaiting discovery? And how much of human history remains hidden, obscured by time, soil, and the passage of millennia, waiting for those willing to look carefully, think deeply, and embrace the mystery? From the verdant hills and mysterious terraces of Bosnia, where monumental stone formations hint at lost civilizations and hidden knowledge, our journey now turns southeast, following the winding contours of history to the arid and sun-scorched landscapes of the Judean desert in Palestine. Here, in the shadow of rugged cliffs and the shimmering surface of the Dead Sea, one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries of the 20th century lay hidden for centuries: the Dead Sea Scrolls. These ancient manuscripts, discovered between 1947 and 1956 in the caves near Qumran, offer a window into a distant past where faith, culture, and human aspiration converge in ways that continue to puzzle scholars, theologians, and historians alike. The caves themselves are austere, carved by wind and water into jagged recesses in limestone cliffs that rise sharply from the desert floor. The air is dry, heavy with the scent of mineral-rich dust, and the sunlight strikes the stone at sharp angles, creating shadows that seem almost to conceal as much as they reveal. It was in these inhospitable conditions that the scrolls lay for nearly 2 millennia, their fragile parchment and papyrus shielded from the harsh desert climate. When first uncovered, the scrolls' discovery was at once thrilling and perplexing. Over 900 manuscripts, fragments of biblical texts, sectarian writings, and apocalyptic visions, all astonishingly preserved. The scrolls are remarkable not only for their age, estimated to range from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE, but also for their content. Many of the texts correspond to portions of the Hebrew Bible, predating previously known copies by centuries. Others, however, are unique, reflecting the beliefs and practices of a sect often identified as the Essenes, a Jewish community whose customs and interpretations diverged from mainstream Judaic traditions of the time. Some passages offer alternative narratives, variant commandments, or esoteric commentaries, challenging assumptions about the development of religious texts and the transmission of sacred knowledge. Scholars have marveled at the precision and consistency of the scrolls, particularly given their age and the conditions under which they were produced. The writing is meticulous, with careful spacing, uniform lettering, and the use of ink that has survived millennia. Yet, paradoxically, the scrolls also display anomalies and inconsistencies, names, dates, and descriptions that do not always align with other historical records, cryptic symbols, and passages that are fragmentary or partially illegible. These elements raise questions about authorship, purpose, and the intended audience. Who created these texts, and why were they hidden away in such remote caves? Were they intended as instruction, prophecy, or perhaps as a safeguard of sacred knowledge in a time of conflict and upheaval? The physicality of the scrolls contributes to their enigmatic aura. Many are made of animal parchment, others of papyrus, and a few even of copper plates, each chosen for durability and symbolic resonance. The copper scrolls, in particular, are unlike anything else in the collection, containing lists of hidden treasures and locations described with cryptic coordinates. Were these literal instructions to recover material wealth, or allegorical markers for spiritual or ritualistic pursuits? And if the treasures were real, have they already been claimed, or do they remain buried beneath layers of sand and time, waiting for discovery? Contextualizing the scrolls within their landscape deepens the mystery. The Qumran community appears to have been highly organized, with a complex system of communal living, ritual baths, and strict religious observance. The caves, strategically situated along cliff faces overlooking the Dead Sea, suggest intentional concealment, perhaps in anticipation of Roman incursions or internal religious conflict. Yet the sheer scale of the manuscripts and the effort required to produce them point to a community with significant literacy, resources, and discipline. How did such a small and isolated group achieve this level of textual production? And what drove them to preserve their writings with such extraordinary care, ensuring their survival for thousands of years? The scrolls also include apocalyptic visions and prophecies, foretelling cosmic upheavals, the arrival of messianic figures, and the ultimate destiny of humanity. These passages, written in poetic and symbolic language, have inspired centuries of interpretation and debate. Were they purely theological, a reflection of eschatological anxieties, or do they encode observations of astronomical, environmental, or political events interpreted through a spiritual lens? The ambiguity is profound, leaving room for both scholarly analysis and speculative contemplation. One of the most captivating aspects of the scrolls is their relationship to canonical texts. In some cases, the Qumran manuscripts preserve readings that differ from later biblical versions, shedding light on the evolution of scriptural interpretation. In others, the texts provide entirely new perspectives on law, ritual, and morality. This duality, both familiar and foreign, creates a tension that continues to fascinate researchers. How much of what we consider fixed in religious tradition is, in fact, the product of centuries of editing, copying, and selection? And how much knowledge or alternative interpretation may have been intentionally suppressed, lost, or hidden in other manuscripts that never survived? The scroll's discovery was not without controversy. The political and religious context of Palestine in the mid-20th century complicated access, preservation, and interpretation. Excavations, private ownership, and academic debate have all shaped the narrative, sometimes obscuring the objects themselves beneath layers of human contention. Yet, even in this, there is a lesson. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not merely texts. They are living witnesses to human history, caught between past and present, sacred and scholarly, known and unknown. Scientific study of the scrolls continues to reveal new information. Advanced imaging techniques, chemical analysis, and multispectral photography have uncovered previously invisible letters, clarified fragmented passages, and revealed hidden details of ink composition and parchment preparation. These discoveries underscore the sophistication of ancient scribes, yet simultaneously raise more questions. What methods did they use to achieve such durability? Why did they choose these caves rather than other locations? And what other manuscripts, still undiscovered, might lie hidden in nearby crevices, awaiting the moment to reshape our understanding of early human history and belief? Beyond the scholarly realm, the scrolls continue to captivate the imagination. They symbolize humanity's quest for meaning, preservation, and understanding. The very act of hiding knowledge in a harsh desert landscape speaks to both fear and foresight, a recognition that ideas, texts, and cultural memory are fragile, yet capable of enduring when carefully protected. In this, the scrolls serve as a bridge across time, connecting the concerns, aspirations, and spirituality of a small desert community to the broader sweep of human history. The Dead Sea Scrolls also compel reflection on the nature of mystery itself. Even as technology, scholarship, and historical context illuminate aspects of their content, much remains opaque. What fragments of human thought, belief, or observation have we yet to fully interpret? Which passages will continue to challenge translation and comprehension? And perhaps, most intriguingly, what truths, literal, symbolic, or otherwise, were deliberately encoded to remain hidden, only to be revealed to those patient enough to seek them? Standing in the Judean desert today, one can imagine the ancient scribes laboring in candlelight or early dawn, inscribing lines of text with care and devotion, aware of the impermanence of the world around them, but determined to preserve knowledge for generations to come. The cliffs and caves, barren and seemingly inhospitable, are transformed by this human presence into repositories of culture, faith, and mystery. Each scroll, fragment, and symbol is a testament to ingenuity, resilience, and the human impulse to connect with something greater than oneself. And so, the Dead Sea Scrolls endure, silent yet eloquent, bridging past and present, faith and scholarship, known and unknown. They challenge assumptions about history, authorship, and preservation, while inviting us to wonder what other secrets might lie buried in the Judean desert. What other texts, voices, or truths remain hidden in caves, waiting for discovery? And as we piece together the fragments of ancient wisdom, how much of our understanding is shaped by what survives, and how much by what has been lost, deliberately, or by the passage of time? In the shadow of the cliffs and the shimmering expanse of the Dead Sea, the scrolls remain both tangible artifacts and profound enigmas. They remind us that history is layered, complex, and often incomplete, and that the act of discovery is as much about the questions we ask as the answers we uncover. In this, the Dead Sea Scrolls continue to inspire awe, reflection, and a deep sense of mystery, inviting each generation to look closer, think deeper, and wonder what other secrets may still lie hidden in the sands of time. From the sun-scorched cliffs and hidden caves of the Judean desert, where the Dead Sea Scrolls preserved the voices of an ancient community for millennia, our journey now arcs westward across continents and oceans, landing in the tropical lowlands of Veracruz, Mexico. Amid dense vegetation, winding rivers, and fertile plains, archaeologists uncovered an artifact that has stunned historians and linguists alike: the Cascajal block. This unassuming slab of serpentine stone, roughly the size of a laptop, bears a series of inscriptions unlike anything previously seen in the ancient Americas, a collection of symbols that might represent the earliest known writing in the Western Hemisphere. The discovery of the Cascajal block was made in the early 21st century, amidst the ruins of the Olmec civilization, often regarded as Mesoamerica's mother culture. The Olmecs flourished along the Gulf Coast from roughly 1500 to 400 BCE, leaving behind colossal stone heads, intricate jade carvings, and ceremonial centers whose precise purpose still sparks debate. Yet, while these monumental works revealed sophistication, the Cascajal block suggested something entirely different: a codified system of symbolic communication, etched with care and intention, hinting at literacy far earlier than previously assumed in the Americas. Examining the block, one is struck by the precision and deliberate placement of the symbols. There are 62 distinct markings, many repeated, featuring shapes reminiscent of plants, animals, and abstract forms. They are arranged in horizontal sequences, suggesting syntax or narrative order. Though no Rosetta Stone exists to unlock their meaning, the lines are neat, evenly spaced, and carefully incised into the stone surface, implying the work of a skilled hand and a structured understanding of symbolic communication. Could these symbols represent language, religious ideology, or administrative record-keeping? And if so, what knowledge or history might they encode, now lost to the millennia? The context of the block's discovery adds to the mystery. Found among floodplain sediments, near other Olmec artifacts, it appeared at first glance as a fragment of mundane material culture. Yet detailed analysis revealed that the inscriptions predate other known Mesoamerican writing systems, including the later Maya script, by centuries. This raises profound questions about the origins of writing in the Americas. Was literacy a feature of Olmec society previously unrecognized, reserved for elites or priests? Or does the block hint at a broader, now largely invisible tradition of written communication that may have existed across the region? The content of the inscriptions is tantalizingly cryptic. Some symbols appear to be pictograms, resembling familiar forms: maze, jaguar, serpent, each potentially carrying symbolic, religious, or calendrical significance. Others are abstract, geometric, or enigmatic, resisting immediate identification. Were these markings a mnemonic device, an early form of record-keeping, or a fully developed script encoding spoken language? And why was such knowledge seemingly lost, leaving a millennia-long gap before the emergence of later writing systems in Mesoamerica? The answers remain elusive. Materials analysis suggests that the block was carved from serpentine, a hard and durable stone, chosen perhaps for its longevity or symbolic resonance. The deliberate effort required to etch the symbols indicates not only technical skill but also intention, a desire to create a record meant to endure. The craftsmanship raises further questions. How widespread was literacy among the Olmecs? Were other blocks or tablets once inscribed and lost to time, eroded by centuries of flood, decay, or human activity? And might other artifacts, yet to be discovered, reveal an entire network of early writing waiting to be pieced together? The Cascajal block challenges conventional timelines of cultural development in the Americas. Before its discovery, the prevailing consensus held that complex writing systems emerged in Mesoamerica with the Maya centuries later. Yet this block suggests that the Olmecs may have developed symbolic communication at a level comparable to contemporary Old World civilizations. If true, This implies that the roots of literacy, record-keeping, and abstract thought in the Americas are far deeper than previously imagined, and that we are only beginning to glimpse the intellectual landscape of this enigmatic society. Interpretations of the block remain contested. Some scholars caution against reading too much into a single artifact, noting that the absence of supporting texts limits conclusions. Others argue that the consistency and repeated motifs indicate a deliberate system of communication. Regardless, the block's existence challenges assumptions about cultural innovation, suggesting that the Olmecs were not only master artisans and architects, but also conceptual thinkers capable of abstract representation. The broader implications of the block extend beyond the symbols themselves. If the Olmecs created a written system, what purposes did it serve? Administrative, religious, historical? Some researchers speculate that the inscriptions may have been used to record ritual events, calendrical cycles, or genealogies of rulers and priests. Others consider the possibility that they represented cosmological knowledge, encoding understanding of celestial events, agricultural cycles, or natural phenomena. The ambiguity of the inscriptions invites reflection on the universality of human creativity and the diverse forms it can take across time and geography. The landscape surrounding the block enhances its sense of mystery. Veracruz's lush river valleys, punctuated by ceremonial centers and monumental stone sculptures, suggest a society deeply attuned to both nature and ritual. The block may have been transported, displayed, or stored within these ceremonial spaces, accessible only to select members of society. Its deliberate concealment, whether intentional or incidental, raises further questions. Why do we have only one surviving example of such early writing? Was it meant to be secret, sacred, or preserved for posterity in a manner we can no longer reconstruct? Speculative theories also emerge, not as sensational claims, but as attempts to contextualize the enigmatic artifact. Could the block indicate cross-cultural knowledge transfer, hinting at interactions between distant regions earlier than documented? Or does it represent an independent innovation, arising from the intellectual and social sophistication of the Olmecs themselves? Whatever the answer, the Cascajal block underscores the profound complexity of ancient Mesoamerican societies and the possibility that countless achievements remain hidden beneath layers of soil, vegetation, and time. The block's presence in museums today, carefully preserved and studied, allows us to trace the ingenuity of its creators. Yet even with modern imaging, chemical analysis, and careful scrutiny, the symbols retain a stubborn ambiguity. They are at once familiar and alien, recognizable as deliberate marks but opaque in meaning, evoking the tension between knowledge preserved and knowledge lost. Each line, each symbol, is a fragment of thought, a testament to intellectual ambition, and a reminder of the fragility of human records across the centuries. Walking through the Olmec heartland, imagining the hands that carved the symbols, one cannot escape the sense of temporal depth. The creators of the Cascajal block were innovators, thinkers, and visionaries whose work has survived against the odds. Yet the story remains incomplete. How did these symbols function within their society? What ideas, beliefs, or histories did they encode, and how many more artifacts, like the block, lie undiscovered in the dense jungles, waiting to reveal secrets that could reshape our understanding of the early Americas? The Cascajal block stands as a monument to human curiosity and ingenuity, a symbol of the desire to record, communicate, and preserve meaning. It challenges assumptions about the origins of writing, the sophistication of early societies, and the continuity of cultural knowledge. Even as scholars attempt to decipher its symbols, the block resists final interpretation, reminding us that much of history remains hidden, fragmented, or elusive. And so the Cascajal block endures as both a tangible artifact and a profound mystery. It invites us to consider the scope of human creativity, the persistence of ideas, and the silent legacies left behind by civilizations long vanished. What other forms of early writing, symbolic expression, or lost knowledge await discovery? How much of our understanding of ancient societies depends on the fragments that survive, and how much has been irrevocably lost? In the humid lowlands of Veracruz, beneath layers of soil and vegetation, the Cascajal block continues to speak, quietly urging us to look deeper, question further, and imagine what other secrets the ancient world may still hold. From the humid lowlands of Veracruz, where the enigmatic Cascajal block hints at literacy and complex symbolic thought in ancient Mesoamerica, our journey now soars southward across the Andes, into a landscape where clouds drift over towering peaks and rivers carve deep valleys into the rugged Peruvian terrain. Here, perched high above the sacred valley near Cusco, lies a site shrouded in both history and mystery: the Temple of the Moon. Unlike the more famous Machu Picchu, whose terraces and structures dominate imagination and scholarship alike, the Temple of the Moon is quieter, secluded, and less trodden by modern explorers. Yet it holds secrets that echo across centuries. The site itself is carved directly into the mountainside, a series of rock-hewn chambers, niches, and ceremonial spaces etched into the granite with precision that continues to fascinate archaeologists and visitors. Walking among these chambers, one is struck by the scale and complexity of the architecture: vast open halls, steep staircases, and sculpted altars, all seamlessly integrated into the natural contours of the cliff. The air is cool, tinged with mineral scents from the stone, and the shadows of the Andes move slowly across the walls, accentuating the feeling of being in a space both ancient and timeless. Historical accounts associate the Temple of the Moon with the Inca civilization, but the precise origins of the site remain elusive. Unlike Machu Picchu or Sacsayhuaman, the temple lacks extensive written records or detailed chronicles, leaving researchers to piece together its history from the physical evidence and oral traditions. Some suggest the site predates the Inca, possibly built by earlier Andean cultures whose knowledge and practices were absorbed or repurposed by later societies. Others posit that the Incas themselves, masters of architecture, astronomy, and ritual, selected this dramatic location for its spiritual resonance, aligning the temple with celestial events or sacred landscapes. The chambers themselves reveal meticulous craftsmanship. Walls are smoothed and shaped, niches precisely cut, and trapezoidal doorways echo Inca architectural principles seen elsewhere in the region. Yet anomalies abound. Certain rooms are carved with unusual angles, alcoves of uncertain purpose, and depressions that suggest ritual activity now lost to time. Could these spaces have been intended for ceremonial offerings, meditation, or astronomical observation? Or were they designed to manipulate sound, light, or shadow in ways now indecipherable to the modern eye? The evidence invites both awe and speculation, challenging assumptions about the capabilities and intentions of the builders. One of the most compelling features of the Temple of the Moon is its integration with the surrounding landscape. Water channels, carved into the rock with remarkable precision, hint at an understanding of hydraulic engineering, while terraces and staircases align with natural rock formations. Some researchers have proposed that these features were designed to channel rainfall, ritual libations, or even underground springs, merging practical necessity with spiritual symbolism. Could the temple have functioned as both a ceremonial center and a site of natural observation, where the forces of earth, water, and sky were woven into ritual practice? The temple's location high in the mountains offers more than physical prominence. Views from the site extend across the valley below, framing rivers, distant peaks, and the shifting patterns of light and shadow. This vantage point may have held symbolic significance, a place closer to the heavens, ideal for ceremonies invoking celestial deities or for observing lunar and solar cycles, which were central to Andean cosmology. The temple's name, Temple of the Moon, reflects this connection, suggesting rituals aligned with lunar phases, tides, and perhaps agricultural cycles, though direct evidence remains tantalizingly incomplete. Artifacts recovered from the site, including ceramic fragments, stone tools, and carved figurines, provide glimpses into the culture of its builders. Yet the scarcity of inscriptions or written records leaves questions unanswered. What were the specific rituals performed here? Who were the participants? And what hierarchy governed the ceremonial space? Were offerings made to appease deities, ensure fertility, or mark astronomical events? Each fragment of evidence opens further questions, revealing the temple as both a tangible artifact and a profound enigma. The Temple of the Moon also exhibits a striking use of geometry and symbolism. Some chambers appear to align with the rising and setting of the moon and sun, suggesting deliberate orientation and celestial awareness. Alcoves and depressions carved into walls may have served as markers or receptacles for ritual objects, possibly reflecting cosmological or astronomical knowledge encoded into the architecture itself. Could the temple have functioned as a calendar, a spiritual observatory, or even a teaching space where elite practitioners imparted esoteric knowledge? The possibilities are as vast as the mountains themselves, yet evidence remains fragmentary and open to interpretation. Speculative theories abound, but the site resists definitive conclusions. Some suggest that the temple predates the Inca, constructed by an earlier culture whose practices influenced subsequent Andean civilizations. Others argue that it represents a ceremonial extension of Machu Picchu, a hidden adjunct used for specific lunar rites or initiations. Still more interpret the site as a center of ritualized astronomy, where the movement of celestial bodies was encoded into stone and ritual, blending observation with spiritual practice. Each interpretation highlights a tension between tangible evidence and the mysteries that persist, emphasizing how much remains unknown even in a region extensively studied by archaeologists. Walking through the Temple of the Moon, one is struck by the interplay of natural and human-made forms. The granite cliffs rise sharply, carved by millennia of erosion. Yet the chambers, staircases, and niches seem almost as if the mountain itself was sculpted to serve human purpose. Light filters through openings, casting intricate shadows that shift with the sun, while the wind whistles through corridors and stairways, creating an ephemeral soundtrack to the ancient space. The sensory experience evokes both awe and introspection, inviting reflection on the ingenuity, vision, and spirituality of the builders. The temple's seclusion further enhances its mystique. Unlike more accessible sites, it requires careful navigation through rugged terrain, demanding focus, endurance, and attention to the environment. This isolation may have been intentional, a space reserved for select individuals, for ceremonies requiring secrecy, or for encounters with the sacred that were inaccessible to the general population. Could it be that the temple's very remoteness was part of its function, reinforcing the spiritual significance of the journey as much as the rituals performed upon arrival? The Temple of the Moon, in its grandeur, precision, and enigmatic features, challenges conventional understanding of Andean civilizations. It invites reflection on the intersection of architecture, astronomy, ritual, and spirituality. How much of the knowledge embedded in its walls remains hidden, encoded in angles, alignments, and spaces now difficult to interpret? And what might the temple tell us about the continuity of cultural memory, the transmission of ceremonial practice, and the relationship between humans and the cosmos in the ancient Andes? Even today, the temple resonates with a sense of timelessness and mystery. Visitors who traverse its corridors, ascend its stairways, and peer into its carved chambers often describe a profound feeling of connection to something greater than themselves, a recognition of human ingenuity intertwined with natural forces. The Temple of the Moon does not yield its secrets easily, yet its enduring presence invites contemplation, study, and wonder. And so, as clouds drift across the Andes and sunlight glances off granite walls, the Temple of the Moon stands as a testament to the creativity, skill, and spiritual insight of its builders. Its chambers, terraces, and carved spaces are fragments of a larger story, one only partially illuminated by archaeology and scholarship. What other ceremonial or astronomical functions might the temple have served? What knowledge, lost to time, remains hidden in its shadows? And how many other sacred spaces, scattered across the highlands, still await discovery, whispering their secrets to those patient and perceptive enough to listen? In the quiet of the Peruvian mountains, the Temple of the Moon continues to inspire awe and reflection, reminding us that the ancient world was a place of profound sophistication, spiritual depth, and enduring mystery. It challenges us to look beyond the familiar, to question assumptions, and to imagine what other enigmas remain, etched into stone, sky, and memory, waiting to be uncovered. From the lofty heights of the Andes, where the Temple of the Moon stands carved into granite cliffs, our journey now sweeps across continents and centuries, moving from the sacred mountains of Peru to the storied plains and cities of the ancient Mediterranean world. Here, we turn our attention to one of history's most enduring mysteries, the final resting place of Alexander the Great, the Macedonian conqueror whose campaigns reshaped the known world. Unlike the monuments and temples that mark civilizations long past, Alexander's tomb has eluded discovery for over 2 millennia, a ghostly enigma that continues to captivate historians, archaeologists, and adventurers alike. The story begins in 323 BCE in the city of Babylon, where Alexander died at the age of 32 under circumstances that remain debated: illness, poisoning, or the cumulative toll of wounds sustained over years of relentless warfare. His empire stretched from Greece to Egypt and as far east as India, yet his death marked the beginning of a perplexing mystery. Where would the world's most renowned conqueror find his final resting place? Historical accounts suggest that his body was initially intended for burial in Macedonia, his homeland, yet events unfolded differently, setting the stage for centuries of speculation. According to ancient sources, Alexander's body was intercepted during transport by Ptolemy I, one of his generals and later ruler of Egypt, who diverted the remains to Alexandria, the city he founded in the Nile Delta. The logistics alone were remarkable. A preserved body, carried across vast distances, embalmed in honey and carefully maintained for display. Ancient texts describe elaborate funeral processions, public mourning, and the reverence with which the corpse was treated. Alexandria, a city newly rising as a hub of culture, trade, and power, became the locus of Alexander's posthumous legacy. Yet after these early reports, the historical record grows murky. Writers from the Roman era, including Strabo and Pliny the Elder, describe grand mausoleums and tombs in Alexandria, often located in central ceremonial districts. The tomb was said to contain statues, gold ornaments, and offerings, and to have become a pilgrimage site for rulers, philosophers, and emperors alike. Julius Caesar and Augustus are both reported to have visited, leaving behind tantalizing descriptions of its splendor. Yet the precise location was never clearly documented, and over centuries, Alexandria underwent wars, fires, earthquakes, and urban redevelopment. Could the tomb have been destroyed, buried, or simply lost amid the city's shifting topography? The mystery deepens when we consider contradictory accounts. Some chronicles suggest that the tomb remained visible and venerated into the early centuries of the Common Era, while others claim it disappeared entirely, its location erased from collective memory. Explorers, historians, and treasure hunters over centuries have scoured Alexandria, uncovering fragments of ancient walls, roads, and inscriptions, yet nothing definitively linked to Alexander's final resting place has emerged. How could a tomb of such historical importance vanish from the heart of one of the world's most significant cities? The enigma extends beyond mere location. Even if the tomb were discovered, questions remain about the contents. Ancient descriptions indicate that Alexander's body may have been displayed in a golden sarcophagus, adorned with regalia befitting a king who declared himself divine. Did the tomb also hold treasures, ceremonial artifacts, or relics intended to cement his legacy? Or was the focus purely on the symbolic power of his preserved remains, a testament to ambition, conquest, and the aspiration to immortality? The very ambiguity invites speculation, while reminding us that history is often shaped as much by what is lost as by what survives. Archaeologists have approached the mystery from multiple angles, considering both textual evidence and the physical remnants of ancient Alexandria. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and excavation of historical districts have revealed ruins of grand structures, some plausibly mausoleum-like, yet none conclusively tied to Alexander. Scholars debate whether the tomb may lie beneath layers of modern urban development, hidden beneath the contemporary cityscape, or whether it was obliterated by natural disasters, looting, or the inexorable passage of time. Each hypothesis is plausible, yet each raises further questions, underscoring the tomb's elusive nature. Some theories verge into speculation without straying into fantasy. Could Alexander's body have been moved again in antiquity, transferred to an unknown or secret location to protect it from looting or political intrigue? Might it have been interred along the Nile, in a now submerged or inaccessible site? And if such a relocation occurred, what evidence might remain? Ancient records, inscriptions, or architectural remnants waiting to be rediscovered? The absence of concrete proof allows the mystery to endure, compelling modern explorers to balance historical rigor with imaginative inquiry. The tomb's significance is not merely archaeological, but cultural and symbolic. Alexander's ambition, charisma, and military genius transformed the ancient world, spreading Hellenistic culture across continents and generations. A tomb would not only be a resting place, but a tangible connection to a figure whose influence shaped law, art, language, and governance for centuries. Its disappearance is a reminder of the impermanence of human endeavors and of the fragility of memory in the face of historical forces. What survives is the idea of Alexander, monumental and mythic, while the physical vessel of his legacy remains lost, an enigma suspended between legend and history. Some researchers have explored alternative possibilities. Could the tomb have been deliberately concealed to prevent desecration or political exploitation? Did Alexander himself, aware of the ambitions of his generals and the instability of his empire, anticipate the need for secrecy? Or does the lack of clarity simply reflect centuries of urban transformation in Alexandria, where the tomb was swallowed by construction, erosion, or neglect? These questions highlight the intersection of human intention, historical accident, and the unpredictable forces of nature. Artifacts, coins, inscriptions, and architectural remnants from Alexandria offer tantalizing hints, yet none provides definitive proof. The descriptions of gold sarcophagi, gilded chambers, and ceremonial riches may reflect embellishment, reverence, or exaggeration, but they also point to a civilization capable of monumental artistry and ritual sophistication. Could remnants of the tomb still exist beneath the city, preserved under layers of sand, stone, and mortar, awaiting discovery? Or has time irrevocably erased these traces, leaving us only with imagination, deduction, and fragmented historical accounts. Standing today in Alexandria, among bustling streets, modern buildings, and echoes of antiquity, one can envision the grandeur that once characterized the city's ceremonial heart. The tomb, if ever found, would bridge millennia, connecting contemporary observers with a man whose campaigns spanned continents. Yet its absence invites reflection on the broader nature of history. How much of what we study is tangible? How much is reconstructed from fragments? And how much remains forever unknown? The tomb's story resonates with themes of ambition, mortality, and the desire for remembrance. Alexander's life was defined by conquest, vision, and relentless pursuit of greatness, and the disappearance of his tomb is almost poetic in its irony, a reminder that even the most powerful cannot fully control the preservation of their legacy. In this, the search for the tomb becomes not just a quest for artifacts, but an exploration of memory, cultural transmission, and the passage of time. And so, the tomb of Alexander the Great endures as both historical puzzle and symbol. It challenges archaeologists, historians, and dreamers to question what is recoverable, what is irretrievably lost, and what lies hidden beneath the streets, sands, and ruins of a city that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Where exactly does Alexander rest? What treasures, inscriptions, or relics accompany him, preserved or destroyed by centuries of upheaval? And perhaps most compelling of all, how does the search itself, shaped by history, ambition, and human curiosity, illuminate as much about us today as it does about a conqueror of 2 millennia past? In the streets of Alexandria, under the shifting sun and the restless Mediterranean breeze, the mystery remains, whispering across time, urging the persistent to explore, question, and imagine. The tomb of Alexander the Great is not merely a site, it is an invitation to confront history's gaps, to honor the ingenuity and ambition of a distant age, and to wonder what secrets may still be hidden, awaiting those with the patience and vision to uncover them. From the bustling streets and ancient ruins of Alexandria, where the enigma of Alexander the Great's final resting place lingers, our journey now turns eastward, spanning continents and civilizations, to the heart of ancient China. Here, amid the fertile plains of the Yellow River, lies a mystery etched in bone and shell, a window into the minds, fears, and ambitions of a people who lived over 3 millennia ago. The oracle bones. These fragments, seemingly modest and utilitarian, bear inscriptions that have become one of the earliest forms of Chinese writing, yet they remain shrouded in enigma, provoking questions that challenge our understanding of history, divination, and human cognition. The oracle bones were primarily made from the shoulder blades of oxen and the plastrons of turtles, carefully selected for their size and smooth surfaces. The bones themselves are unassuming, weathered by time, yet their surfaces are meticulously carved with symbols, ancient characters that represent questions posed to deities, ancestral spirits, or cosmic forces. Each line, each crack, each burnt fissure tells a story of inquiry and anticipation, of human desire to pierce the veil of uncertainty and glimpse the future. Holding one of these bones, even today, is to feel a direct connection to a world long past, to the anxieties and decisions of rulers and commoners alike. Dating back to the late Shang dynasty, around 1250 BCE, the oracle bones are among the earliest known examples of systematic writing in human history. They were used primarily for pyromantic divination, a practice in which questions were inscribed on the bone, heat was applied until cracks formed, and diviners interpreted the patterns to divine outcomes. Topics ranged from warfare and agriculture to ritual ceremonies, royal births, and celestial phenomena. In essence, these bones were both a tool and a record, preserving not just the act of divination, but also the societal priorities, fears, and governance of an early civilization striving to navigate an uncertain world. Yet for all their practicality, the oracle bones are also profoundly mysterious. The inscriptions themselves are complex, composed of early Chinese characters whose forms often differ from later standardized writing. Deciphering them requires careful scholarship, yet even today, some symbols remain obscure, their meanings debated. Were these characters purely functional, or did they carry ritualistic, symbolic, or even magical significance beyond the obvious? And why did the Shang court invest such time and effort into this practice, systematically recording questions and interpretations for centuries, only for much of it to fade from the historical record until modern rediscovery? The process of divination is striking in its precision and ritual. Bones were selected, cleaned, and polished, then inscribed with ink or scratched directly with a sharp implement. Heat was applied, often using metal rods or embers, until cracks formed across the bone's surface. These cracks were read by skilled diviners, often in consultation with the king or ruling elite, who sought guidance on matters of governance, military strategy, or cosmic order. After interpretation, the bones were sometimes further inscribed with the predicted or actual outcomes, creating a record that allowed future generations to study the interplay between question, prediction, and result. What makes the oracle bones particularly intriguing is their dual nature. They are both practical instruments and artifacts of immense symbolic weight. They reveal the deeply intertwined relationship between governance and spirituality in early China, where political decisions were inseparable from ritual practice. Kings relied on the bones not merely for advice, but as a means to legitimize their authority, demonstrate piety, and maintain harmony between heaven, earth, and human society. In this sense, the bones served as a bridge between the tangible and intangible, a physical medium for communication with forces beyond ordinary perception. The archaeological discovery of the oracle bones in the late 19th and early 20th centuries adds another layer of mystery. Initially found in fragments, often repurposed as fertilizer or discarded in fields, their significance was unrecognized for decades. Scholars slowly pieced together the inscriptions, revealing a system of writing and divination of remarkable sophistication. The bones provided evidence of early bureaucratic organization, ritual practice, and even historical events, linking a civilization's spiritual life with its political and social structures. Yet questions persist. How standardized were these practices across the Shang dynasty? Were similar forms of divination employed elsewhere in ancient China, or is this unique to a specific temporal and geographic context? The oracle bones also raise deeper philosophical and cultural questions. Why did humans, even in antiquity, seek to pierce the veil of uncertainty? What does the careful preservation of these questions tell us about the values, anxieties, and aspirations of the Shang court? Could there have been layers of meaning embedded in the cracks themselves, interpretations known only to the diviners and lost over millennia? And beyond their immediate ritual function, how did these inscriptions influence the development of Chinese script, literacy, and record-keeping, leaving a legacy that extends into modern times? Some theories venture into more speculative territory without departing from scholarly plausibility. Certain researchers suggest that the bones may have been used not just for divination, but for astrological or calendrical purposes, aligning human action with celestial rhythms. Others consider that the inscriptions could encode knowledge of medicine, agriculture, or mathematics in symbolic form, hidden within layers of ritual meaning. Even the physical choice of bones, oxen, and turtles may hold symbolic or energetic significance, reflecting an ancient worldview in which material objects were conduits for communication with the divine. Despite centuries of study, the oracle bones retain a palpable sense of mystery. Each fragment is a fragment of thought, a record of a question cast into the unknown, and an enduring testament to human curiosity. They remind us that early civilizations were not merely primitive precursors to modernity, but sophisticated, reflective societies deeply engaged with questions of causality, fate, and cosmic order. The inscriptions are, in essence, conversations across time, messages from a world that continues to challenge our understanding and expand our imagination. Visiting the sites associated with the oracle bones today, one encounters the Yellow River Plains, ancient city ruins, and scattered archaeological deposits that hint at the scale and complexity of Shang society. The bones themselves, preserved in museums and research collections, speak of human ingenuity, ritualized practice, and intellectual ambition. Yet even in careful study, uncertainty persists. How many bones were lost to time, agriculture, or human reuse? What knowledge, ceremonial practice, or societal insight vanished with them? And what might further discoveries reveal about the interplay of ritual, power, and literacy in one of the world's earliest civilizations? The oracle bones serve as a reminder that the past is never fully accessible, yet it leaves traces, hints, and whispers that demand attention, curiosity, and careful interpretation. They challenge us to consider how humans have sought to understand the world, to exert influence over fate, and to record their inquiries for posterity. They also underscore the limits of knowledge, the ways in which history is both preserved and fragmented, leaving space for imagination, exploration, and wonder. And so, the oracle bones remain at once familiar and enigmatic, objects of study, repositories of knowledge, and symbols of the enduring human quest to navigate uncertainty. They invite us to reflect on the origins of writing, divination, and ritual, while acknowledging the profound mysteries that remain. What secrets, etched in bone or ink, might still lie undiscovered? What insights into human cognition, belief, and societal organization await those patient and perceptive enough to uncover them? In the quiet contemplation of these ancient artifacts, we are reminded that history is a dialogue across time, a conversation that begins with a question, endures through centuries, and continues to challenge, intrigue, and inspire. From the fertile plains of ancient China, where the oracle bones capture human curiosity and ritual practice from over 3 millennia ago, we now turn to the shadowed depths of prehistoric Europe. Beneath the limestone cliffs of the Ardèche region in southern France lies a hidden world, untouched by time and cloaked in mystery, the Chauvet Cave. Discovered in 1994 by a team led by Jean-Marie Chauvet, this subterranean sanctuary houses some of the earliest known cave paintings, dating back nearly 36,000 years, and offers an extraordinary glimpse into the minds, fears, and imaginations of our distant ancestors. The cave is not immediately striking from the outside. Its entrance, nestled amidst rugged cliffs and dense forest, appears unremarkable, almost easy to overlook. But inside, a world unfolds that is both breathtaking and enigmatic. Stalactites and stalagmites frame chambers that twist and narrow, forming natural corridors illuminated by flickering torchlight during discovery, revealing walls alive with movement and color. The paintings themselves are remarkable not only for their antiquity, but for the skill, dynamism, and vividness with which they depict the natural world. On the walls, the figures seem to breathe. Horses, lions, rhinoceroses, mammoths, and aurochs are rendered with astonishing realism, their forms flowing with energy, poised mid-stride or mid-leap. The artists employed shading, perspective, and engraving techniques that suggest both observation and imagination, capturing not just the outward appearance of these creatures, but a sense of motion and vitality. Charcoal, ochre, and mineral pigments were applied with care, some in layers, to achieve depth and intensity, creating a visual language that transcends mere representation. Yet, for all their beauty, the Chauvet paintings are profoundly mysterious. Why did these early humans invest such effort in a hidden, inaccessible cave, far from the sunlight and communal spaces of daily life. Unlike later caves in Europe, which often contain repetitive motifs or signs of habitation, Chauvet shows no evidence of prolonged living quarters. Was the cave a sacred space, a sanctuary where rituals were performed and knowledge was encoded? Or did it serve as a teaching ground, a repository of collective memory, a place where stories of animals, seasons, and survival were etched into stone for future generations? The spatial arrangement of the paintings adds to the intrigue. Animals are often grouped according to species or movement patterns, suggesting intention, narrative, or symbolic meaning. Predators and prey share walls, sometimes overlapping, in compositions that evoke tension, vitality, and perhaps even the cycle of life and death. Certain chambers appear more decorated than others, as if the artists carefully selected locations with specific acoustics, shapes, or lighting to enhance visual or ritual impact. Could sound and shadow have played a role, transforming the cave into a multisensory experience, where storytelling and ceremony intertwined with the flickering of torchlight and echo of footsteps? Dating the paintings has posed its own challenges. Radiocarbon analysis indicates an age far older than previously assumed for cave art, placing Chauvet among the earliest known examples of human artistic expression. This revelation reshaped understanding of Paleolithic cognition, creativity, and cultural sophistication. These were not crude or symbolic sketches. They were carefully observed, deliberate, and artistically accomplished, demonstrating that our ancestors possessed both the technical skill and the conceptual insight to produce art of profound complexity. Beyond their technical mastery, the paintings raise questions about human perception, symbolism, and belief. Some researchers suggest that the animals may have held spiritual or shamanic significance, representing totems, guiding spirits, or metaphors for survival and power. Others consider the possibility that the images functioned as early forms of storytelling, mnemonic devices, or cosmological maps, encoding information about migration patterns, hunting strategies, or seasonal cycles. Yet, with no written records or contemporary accounts, the intent behind these creations remains elusive, leaving interpretation as much art as science. Evidence of human activity within the cave includes footprints, torch marks, and charcoal remnants, yet all are fleeting, easily erased by the cave's microclimate. The fragility of these traces underscores both the rarity and preciousness of the site. Its discovery in the late 20th century was a moment of astonishing historical fortune, revealing a world that had remained sealed from natural and human interference for tens of thousands of years. What other secrets lie in chambers yet unexplored, in wall niches or crevices where pigments have faded to near invisibility? Some theories speculate on the psychological or ritualistic purpose of Chauvet. Did early humans enter the cave to confront danger, to seek guidance, or to invoke protection over hunting expeditions? Could the act of painting itself, deep within these silent halls, have been a meditative or transformative process, a way to engage with forces unseen but deeply felt? The cave, with its echoing corridors and shifting shadows, suggests intentionality, as though its creators understood the interplay between environment, perception, and meaning, weaving each stroke into a broader experiential tapestry. The artistic choices themselves inspire reflection. Predatory animals are often exaggerated, emphasizing teeth, claws, and musculature, while herbivores are rendered with attention to grace and proportion. Some scholars propose that the cave's imagery embodies a dual perspective, combining observation with imagination, reality with ritual. Could these works represent an early understanding of symbolism, abstract thought, or even proto-narrative structures, concepts once assumed to emerge much later in human history? Each line, shadow, and compositional choice invites the viewer to consider not just what is depicted, but why it was chosen and how it was intended to resonate with contemporaneous observers. The cave's inaccessibility also suggests a cultural or spiritual threshold. Entry may have been restricted to certain individuals, perhaps shamans, elders, or those initiated into ritual knowledge. This controlled access, combined with the careful placement of art, indicates a sophisticated social structure where information, symbolism, and spiritual authority were carefully mediated. How many generations entered this cave, repeated these rituals, or added to the corpus of imagery? And how much of that knowledge has been irretrievably lost to time, leaving only the silent, painted walls as testament to their presence? In contemplating Chauvet, one cannot help but reflect on the continuity of human curiosity and expression. Tens of thousands of years separate us from these Paleolithic artists, yet their urge to depict, understand, and engage with the world resonates across millennia. The cave is a mirror, reflecting not only the flora and fauna of the era, but the cognitive and emotional landscape of its creators: awe, fear, reverence, and perhaps even joy. How did these early humans conceptualize their place in the natural and spiritual world? And how do their choices illuminate the origins of art, ritual, and symbolic thought itself? As sunlight filters into the Ardèche region, brushing the limestone cliffs and forested slopes above the hidden cave, the Chauvet paintings remain a silent dialogue across time. They challenge assumptions about the development of human creativity, the sophistication of early societies, and the ways in which we have sought to communicate, commemorate, and connect with forces greater than ourselves. What other chambers remain undiscovered? What pigments lie hidden in shadow? And what stories might they tell about the people who first dared to leave their mark on stone so long ago? The Chauvet Cave stands as a testament to the enduring power of human imagination, technical skill, and ritual practice. Each chamber, each painted figure, each carved line is an invitation to witness, to question, and to marvel. The paintings remind us that history is not solely the story of monuments, empires, or written records, but also of subtle, fleeting expressions of human thought, preserved by fortune and time. They inspire awe, reflection, and the acknowledgement that mysteries of creativity, symbolism, and purpose endure, waiting to be interpreted, appreciated, and contemplated. And so, as one contemplates the dimly lit passages of Chauvet, hearing only the echoes of distant footsteps and the quiet breath of the cave itself, the paintings speak across 36,000 years. They ask us to wonder, to imagine, and to remain humble before the ingenuity and vision of our earliest ancestors. What other insights might the Paleolithic mind hold, concealed in stone, pigment, and shadow? And how might these ancient expressions continue to shape our understanding of what it means to be human, to observe, and to create? From the quiet, shadowed chambers of Chauvet Cave in France, where the earliest humans left traces of imagination and ritual, our journey now turns westward, across oceans and continents, to the tropical lowlands of southern Mexico. Here, amidst the dense jungles of Veracruz and Tabasco, rise monumental stone figures that continue to intrigue archaeologists, historians, and travelers alike, the Olmec colossal heads. Carved with incredible precision and imposing scale, these sculptures stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that flourished over 3,000 years ago, yet whose origins, purpose, and cultural significance remain largely enigmatic. The heads are immediately arresting in their scale and craftsmanship. Some reach over 3 meters in height, weigh multiple tons, and are hewn from massive basalt boulders transported from distant quarries, sometimes tens of kilometers away. Each face is distinct, characterized by broad noses, full lips, pronounced cheekbones, and helmet-like headgear. The attention to anatomical detail, combined with the sheer size of the sculptures, conveys authority, presence, and an uncanny lifelikeness. One cannot stand before these figures without sensing the weight of history and the deliberate intent of their creators. Dating to roughly 1200 to 400 BCE, the colossal heads are a hallmark of the Olmec civilization, often regarded as Mesoamerica's first major urban society. Cities such as San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes served as cultural, political, and ceremonial centers where these monumental sculptures were prominently displayed. Yet, despite centuries of study, many questions endure. Why were these colossal heads created? Were they portraits of rulers, spiritual leaders, or mythical figures? And what drove a society without the aid of beasts of burden or advanced machinery to transport such massive stones over difficult terrain? The heads themselves are not merely imposing, they are remarkably individualized. Each face has unique features, suggesting that they represent real people rather than generic or symbolic figures. Scholars posit that they may depict elite rulers or revered ancestors, immortalized in stone as embodiments of power, lineage, and legitimacy. The helmets or headgear further hint at social, ceremonial, or martial significance, though their precise function is uncertain. Could these helmets signify rulership, protective symbols, or ceremonial attire? And why the emphasis on such realism in a culture where other artistic forms were often more abstract or symbolic? Transportation of the basalt boulders adds another layer of mystery. Many stones originated in distant highland regions, and moving them to lowland Olmec cities would have required sophisticated engineering, coordination, and immense human labor. Without draft animals or wheels, the Olmecs relied on ingenuity, ropes, rafts, and sheer manpower to navigate rivers, slopes, and dense vegetation. This feat alone speaks to an advanced understanding of logistics, engineering, and social organization, challenging assumptions about what prehistoric societies were capable of achieving. Placement and context of the heads are equally intriguing. They are often situated along ceremonial platforms, plazas, or causeways, aligned in ways that suggest careful consideration of spatial, visual, or symbolic impact. From a distance, their scale dominates the landscape, demanding attention and conveying authority, yet their positioning within urban complexes also implies ritual significance. Were they intended to intimidate, honor, or communicate? Did their presence play a role in political ceremonies, religious observances, or social cohesion? And how much of their meaning is lost to time, awaiting rediscovery through archaeological interpretation? Some researchers have explored the possibility that the colossal heads were more than monuments. They may have functioned as cultural anchors, representing lineage, continuity, or divine sanction for rulers. In societies where writing was limited or symbolic, large-scale sculpture could communicate power, authority, and legitimacy across generations. The Olmec colossal heads might thus embody both personal memory and communal identity, a reminder of the human desire to preserve influence, history, and social order through material culture. Yet speculation is unavoidable. The Olmecs left no definitive written records explaining the purpose of these heads, leaving room for interpretation that ranges from the scholarly to the more imaginative. Some suggest the heads might incorporate spiritual or cosmological symbolism, aligning with the Olmecs' broader religious practices, which included jaguar iconography, ritual offerings, and sacred mounds. Could the heads have been intended as protective figures, guardians of sacred spaces, or intermediaries between humans and the divine? Might they encode knowledge of genealogy, succession, or territorial authority that modern observers cannot fully decode? The technique and artistry of the sculptures continue to astonish. Carving basalt, an extremely hard volcanic rock, with the tools available to the Olmecs would have required remarkable skill, patience, and planning. The smoothness of the surfaces, the proportionate features, and the careful attention to detail reveal both technical mastery and aesthetic sensibility. The heads demonstrate that prehistoric Mesoamerican societies possessed not only the physical capability to move and shape massive stones, but also the conceptual capacity to envision and execute monumental art on an unprecedented scale. Beyond their physical and artistic achievements, the Olmec colossal heads raise broader questions about cultural transmission and influence. The Olmecs are often regarded as a mother culture of Mesoamerica, influencing later civilizations such as the Maya and the Aztec. How did the ideas, techniques, and symbolic practices represented by the heads shape subsequent societies? Were these sculptures viewed as sacred relics, historical records, or political statements? And how might their aesthetic choices have resonated with observers, both contemporaneous and across generations, contributing to the cultural continuity of the region? The environment of southern Mexico also plays a role in the mystery. The tropical climate, seasonal flooding, and dense vegetation would have made construction, transport, and preservation challenging. Yet the Olmecs not only moved these enormous stones, but also ensured their visibility, durability, and significance within urban and ceremonial landscapes. Could environmental awareness have influenced their placement or design? Did the interaction between natural landscape and human intention enhance the symbolic or ritual power of the heads? Even today, the Olmec colossal heads remain compelling in their presence. Standing before one, it is easy to feel the weight of history, the gaze of an individual immortalized in stone, and the ingenuity of a society whose achievements were both monumental and deliberate. They speak not only of rulers and political authority, but of human ambition, artistry, and the desire to be remembered. Their silence is profound, prompting questions rather than providing answers, inviting observers to contemplate the interplay of power, art, and memory across millennia. The mystery persists in other ways as well. New discoveries, fragmentary heads, and scattered sculptures suggest there may be examples yet to be found, buried beneath the earth or hidden by time. Each new find challenges our assumptions, prompts re-evaluation of techniques and logistics, and offers tantalizing glimpses into the Olmec world. How many heads remain undiscovered? What might they reveal about rulers, religion, or daily life in Olmec society? And could further research illuminate broader connections between Mesoamerican civilizations, linking monumental art to social, spiritual, and political networks across the region? The Olmec colossal heads endure as symbols of human creativity, ambition, and ingenuity. They remind us that even without written explanations, ancient societies expressed authority, identity, and belief in ways that transcend time. They challenge modern observers to consider what knowledge and intention might lie behind their creation, and what insights into human organization, ritual, and cognition are preserved within their stone forms. As one walks among these monumental figures, amid tropical vegetation and the echoes of ancient ceremonies, it becomes clear that the Olmec colossal heads are more than stone. They are dialogue across time. They invite us to question, to imagine, and to explore not only the techniques and society that created them, but also the deeper human impulse to leave a mark, to assert presence, and to communicate across centuries. What other stories, identities, or knowledge are embedded within these silent sentinels, and how might their gaze, fixed across millennia, continue to challenge our understanding of the ancient world? From the dense jungles and monumental stones of ancient Mesoamerica, where the Olmec colossal heads stand as enduring symbols of power, artistry, and human ingenuity, our exploration turns northward, across continental Europe, to a discovery that shifts our understanding of prehistoric knowledge and astronomical observation: the Nebra sky disk. Unearthed in 1999 near the town of Nebra in Saxony-Anhalt, Germany, this enigmatic artifact has captivated scholars, historians, and astronomers alike, offering an extraordinary glimpse into the cosmos as imagined by humans over 3,600 years ago. The disk itself is deceptively simple in appearance. Crafted from bronze and inlaid with gold symbols, it measures just over 30 centimeters in diameter. Yet within this modest circle lies a representation of the heavens that is both precise and profound. The gold symbols depict the sun or full moon, a crescent moon, and a cluster of stars identified as the Pleiades, forming a celestial map whose sophistication was entirely unexpected for a society that predates written records of systematic astronomy in Europe. Holding the disk even today, one can sense a deliberate human desire to understand the cosmos and to encode that understanding in a tangible form. Dating to around 1600 BCE, during the European Bronze Age, the Nebra sky disk challenges conventional narratives of prehistoric Europe. It suggests a level of astronomical observation, mathematical knowledge, and symbolic sophistication that was previously thought to emerge only much later. The disk's creators appear to have been capable of observing the heavens with extraordinary accuracy, tracking solar and lunar cycles, and encoding this knowledge for purposes that remain tantalizingly uncertain. Was it a practical instrument, a ritual object, or both? Did it guide agricultural calendars, ceremonial events, or social organization? The answers are elusive, embedded within its polished bronze surface and golden inlays. The discovery of the disk itself was shrouded in mystery. It was found by treasure hunters, hidden in a Bronze Age burial context atop the Middleburg Hill, along with swords, axes, and other ceremonial objects. The context suggests that the disk was not an everyday object, but rather a highly significant artifact, likely reserved for elite individuals or ritual specialists. Its placement atop the hill, visible across the surrounding landscape, hints at a connection between the terrestrial and the celestial, a symbolic alignment of human action with the rhythms of the heavens. Why this location was chosen and how the disk was used in its original context remains open to speculation, raising questions about Bronze Age cosmology, ritual practice, and societal hierarchy. The disk's design also poses intriguing puzzles. The depiction of the sun and moon, along with the Pleiades cluster, suggests that its creators possessed astronomical knowledge of both solar and lunar cycles. Modern analysis has revealed that the disk could have functioned as a tool for aligning the calendar with the solstices, providing guidance for agricultural and ceremonial timing. Yet there are elements whose meaning remains uncertain. Gold arcs along the edges of the disk may represent a horizon, ritual significance, or even symbolic cosmology. What knowledge or tradition informed these choices? And how widely was this understanding shared within Bronze Age European communities? Some scholars speculate that the disk reflects more than practical observation. It may embody an early attempt to map the human place in the universe, a symbolic bridge between earthbound existence and celestial order. The precision and sophistication of the disk imply careful observation over generations, a transmission of knowledge that transcends mere survival. Could this artifact represent a collective endeavor to understand cycles of time, agricultural patterns, and the movements of the heavens? Was it a tool for ritual, a calendar, or an object of veneration, linking society, authority, and cosmic order in ways that modern observers are only beginning to comprehend?
The Nebra sky disk also challenges assumptions about cross-cultural connections in prehistory. Some researchers have noted similarities between its design and motifs in other Bronze Age European regions, raising questions about the diffusion of astronomical knowledge across vast distances. Did trade, migration, or shared cultural frameworks facilitate the exchange of sophisticated ideas, allowing for a network of knowledge that included not only metallurgy and ceramics, but also celestial observation? And if so, what does this tell us about the intellectual sophistication of Bronze Age societies, often perceived as primitive in comparison to later civilizations. The disk's survival is itself remarkable. Bronze and gold are durable materials, yet the object was buried, concealed, and protected for millennia. Its rediscovery sparked international interest, revealing not only a masterpiece of Bronze Age craftsmanship, but also a window into prehistoric cognition. The precision of the symbols suggests both aesthetic intention and functional purpose. The placement of the stars, the arcs representing the horizon, and the alignment with solstices indicate a keen understanding of spatial, temporal, and astronomical relationships, encoded with both skill and intention. Yet, despite intensive study, the Nebra sky disk retains an aura of mystery. We may never fully understand the cultural, ritual, or scientific context that gave rise to its creation. Was it an object of personal significance to a shaman or ruler, a ceremonial instrument employed during solstice gatherings or seasonal rites, or a visual representation of cosmology meant to teach, inspire, or guide communities across generations? Each theory sheds light on possible interpretations, yet none can claim complete certainty, leaving the disk as a timeless puzzle that bridges observation, symbolism, and human imagination. Its discovery also raises questions about the broader Bronze Age worldview. How did societies in Europe conceptualize the heavens, time, and the cycles of life? To what extent did celestial observation inform social, political, and ritual practices? The Nebra sky disk offers tantalizing evidence that early Europeans possessed a sophisticated grasp of the sky's rhythms. Yet the scarcity of comparable artifacts leaves these questions largely unanswered. How many other objects, lost to time, might further illuminate the ways prehistoric humans navigated the intersection of astronomy, ritual, and social organization? The artistry and technical skill of the disk cannot be overstated. Crafting a bronze plate, hammering it to uniform thickness, and inlaying gold symbols with precision required knowledge of metallurgy, geometry, and artistic technique that speaks to a highly developed culture. The creators combined practical observation with symbolic expression, producing an object that is both functional and aesthetically compelling. Could this duality, practical tool and ritual object, reflect a worldview in which the cosmos, human society, and spirituality were deeply interconnected, inseparable, and mutually reinforcing? Visiting the Middelburg site today, one can imagine the Bronze Age landscape, rolling hills, river valleys, and forests that would have framed the sky, marking celestial events and guiding agricultural life. The Nebra sky disk, once lifted under torchlight in a sacred or ceremonial context, would have connected observers directly to the cosmos, reinforcing human awareness of time, cycles, and cosmic order. How did such knowledge influence the choices, beliefs, and governance of these early societies? And how much of that understanding has been lost, leaving us to interpret its meaning through fragments, speculation, and careful measurement? The Nebra sky disk endures as a symbol of human curiosity and ingenuity. It reminds us that even in prehistory, humans sought to observe, understand, and codify the movements of the heavens. It challenges modern assumptions about the sophistication of Bronze Age societies, and it continues to inspire wonder about the intersection of science, ritual, and art in the ancient world. The disk encourages reflection on how knowledge is preserved, transmitted, and lost, highlighting the fragility and resilience of human understanding across millennia. Standing before a reproduction or imagining the original artifact in its Bronze Age context, we are confronted with the enduring question: how much did the creators know, and how intentionally did they encode their knowledge in bronze and gold? What other insights into early European astronomy, ritual practice, and social organization lie buried, awaiting discovery. The Nebra sky disk remains not only a remarkable artifact, but also a conversation across time, a tangible link between human curiosity, observation, and the eternal pursuit of understanding the cosmos.
From the careful observation of the heavens in Bronze Age Europe, epitomized by the Nebra sky disk, we now journey southward across continents and oceans to the rugged highlands of Peru, where another marvel of ancient engineering and artistry commands attention: the Sacsayhuaman Walls. Overlooking the city of Cusco, once the heart of the Inca Empire, these colossal stone constructions rise in staggered terraces, their sheer scale and precision evoking awe and curiosity alike. Even today, standing at the base of these walls, one cannot help but feel dwarfed by their enormity and struck by the mystery of how such perfectly fitted stones were shaped, transported, and assembled without the aid of modern technology. Sacsayhuaman, whose name roughly translates to satisfied falcon, dominates the skyline of the Andes, a fortress of massive boulders seemingly carved from the mountains themselves. The stones, some weighing more than 100 tons, are meticulously interlocked in intricate, zigzagging patterns, forming walls so tight that not even a single blade of grass can fit between them. The precision of the masonry is extraordinary. Each stone is shaped to conform to the contours of its neighbors, creating a stable structure that has withstood earthquakes for centuries. How did the Inca achieve such a feat of engineering? What tools, techniques, or knowledge allowed them to manipulate stones of such magnitude with such exacting precision? Dating back to the 15th century, during the height of Inca civilization, Sacsayhuaman is often described as a fortress, ceremonial center, and symbolic representation of Inca power. Chroniclers of the Spanish conquest recorded its imposing presence, noting the walls' strength and the skill required to construct them. Yet despite centuries of study, many aspects of Sacsayhuaman remain unexplained. The absence of metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or draft animals in the Andes raises questions about the methods used to transport and position the massive stones. Did the Inca employ ingenuity, manpower, and knowledge of physics to slide, lift, and fit the stones? Or were their techniques perhaps lost to time that enabled them to achieve what seems almost impossible by today's standards? The layout of Sacsayhuaman adds another layer to its mystery. The walls form a series of terraces and platforms that spiral along the hillside, suggesting careful planning and an awareness of both defensive strategy and ceremonial significance. The zigzagging design is striking. Not only does it provide structural stability, but it also creates an imposing visual effect, visible from miles away. Could this design have been intended to intimidate potential invaders, to symbolize the jagged mountains, or to reflect cosmological or ritual concepts? And what of the enormous open plazas within, where festivals, rituals, and military gatherings may have taken place? How did these spaces connect to the broader urban and spiritual landscape of Cusco? The stones themselves are of particular fascination. Many are polygonal, irregularly shaped, yet fitted together seamlessly without mortar. This polygonal masonry is not unique to Sacsayhuaman. Similar techniques appear in other Inca sites and even across distant civilizations, from the megaliths of the Mediterranean to ancient Japan. How did the Inca achieve such precision? Some theories suggest that the stones were shaped through repeated trial and error, using stone hammers and abrasion techniques. Others propose that heat, water, or even more speculative methods may have played a role in softening or manipulating the rock. Yet, no consensus has been reached, and the sheer scale and accuracy of the walls continue to challenge conventional explanations. Archaeological investigations have revealed that the walls were constructed in stages, with evidence of quarrying, shaping, and transport meticulously orchestrated. Stones were likely cut from quarries several kilometers away, then moved to the site using a combination of rollers, sledges, and manpower. The physical effort alone is staggering, yet the cultural and spiritual significance of the walls may have motivated such extraordinary labor. Were these efforts primarily practical, defensive, or ceremonial? Could Sacsayhuaman have served as a symbolic manifestation of Inca cosmology, connecting the earthbound empire to celestial and terrestrial order? The location of Sacsayhuaman also speaks to the Inca understanding of landscape, environment, and symbolism. Perched on a hill above Cusco, the walls dominate the valley below, offering strategic visibility, control, and protection. Yet the placement is not merely utilitarian, it aligns with sacred geography, integrating the fortress with surrounding mountains, rivers, and ceremonial pathways. The Incas revered natural features, often interpreting mountains as apus, or sacred spirits, and rivers as lifelines for agricultural and ritual activity. How might these spiritual beliefs have influenced the design, orientation, and construction of Sacsayhuaman? Did the walls serve as both a practical fortress and a monumental homage to divine forces governing the land? Even the durability of Sacsayhuaman invites reflection. The walls have endured centuries of seismic activity in the Andes, yet they remain remarkably intact. The interlocking stones absorb and distribute the forces of earthquakes, a testament to the ingenuity of Inca engineering. The precision of the fit, combined with the strategic geometry, allows the structure to flex and settle without collapsing. Could such sophisticated understanding of material behavior and structural dynamics have been common knowledge among Inca masons? Or does it suggest lost expertise that modern engineers continue to study and marvel at? Beyond engineering, Sacsayhuaman embodies human ambition and cultural identity. The monumental effort required to quarry, transport, shape, and assemble the stones reflects a society capable of organizing labor, coordinating vast resources, and maintaining social cohesion over decades. The walls symbolize not only military might and defense, but also spiritual authority and civic identity. They stand as a testament to a civilization that valued harmony with the natural world, precision in execution, and monumental expression of power. What messages were the builders intending to communicate to contemporaries, and what knowledge have they embedded for us to interpret across centuries? Speculative theories about the walls abound, ranging from pragmatic explanations of defense and resource management to more esoteric ideas about lost technologies or astronomical alignments. Some researchers note potential alignments with solstices, sacred mountains, or surrounding terrain, hinting at a deliberate cosmological awareness in the placement of stones. Others emphasize the skill and creativity of Inca masons, suggesting that the walls were a cultural expression of human ingenuity rather than the product of unknown or advanced technology. Yet, in the absence of definitive written records detailing construction techniques, many questions remain. How exactly were the stones maneuvered? What rituals or knowledge accompanied the labor? And could aspects of their purpose remain hidden, encoded in subtle geometries or ceremonial patterns that we have yet to decode? Walking along the terraces of Sacsayhuaman today, amid the vast stones and sweeping Andean vistas, it is impossible not to feel the presence of the past. The walls speak silently of human ambition, skill, and vision, yet their full story remains elusive. Each stone invites contemplation of the people who carved it, the hands that shaped it, the society that coordinated it, and the beliefs that imbued it with significance. What have we yet to learn from these enduring sentinels of stone? How might further study, excavation, or comparison with other Inca and pre-Inca sites deepen our understanding of this remarkable civilization? Sacsayhuaman endures as more than a fortress or archaeological site. It is a dialogue across centuries, a testament to human ingenuity, a reflection of the complex interplay between art, engineering, spirituality, and power. It reminds us that even without written instructions, prehistoric and early historic societies were capable of extraordinary achievements, leaving traces that continue to inspire wonder, reflection, and inquiry. How many secrets remain embedded in the walls themselves, waiting for the keen observer, the diligent scholar, or the curious traveler to uncover? From the soaring terraces of Sacsayhuaman in the Peruvian Andes, where human ingenuity and ambition are etched in perfectly interlocking stones, our journey moves across continents once again, to the fertile plains of Lebanon, to a site where colossal stone blocks defy conventional understanding and challenge the limits of ancient engineering. The giant stones of Baalbek. Here, in the heart of the Bekaa Valley, the ruins of the Temple of Jupiter rise upon a platform of enormous megaliths, some weighing hundreds, even thousands of tons, their sheer scale provoking awe, disbelief, and lingering questions that persist to this day. The most famous of these stones, the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, measuring approximately 20 meters in length, 4 meters in height, and 4.3 meters in depth, stands as a testament to human ambition on a scale rarely encountered in the ancient world. Carved with astonishing precision, the block's sheer mass, estimated at over 1,000 tons, presents an enduring mystery. How was it quarried, transported, and positioned with such accuracy in an era that lacked cranes, wheels capable of supporting such weight, or mechanized machinery? Even today, the mind struggles to comprehend the logistics required to move a stone of this magnitude. Baalbek, known in antiquity as Heliopolis, has been inhabited and revered for thousands of years. By the time the Romans constructed the Grand Temple of Jupiter, the site had already been a locus of spiritual, cultural, and possibly astronomical significance. The megaliths themselves form part of an enormous platform, creating a flat, elevated foundation upon which the temple was built. From afar, the platform appears seamless, the stones interlocked with remarkable precision, their surfaces smooth and their joints nearly perfect. How did the builders achieve such alignment without the benefit of modern leveling tools? Did they rely on a sophisticated understanding of geometry, leverage, and simple machines? Or is there a method now lost to history? The quarrying of these colossal stones adds another layer to the mystery. Nearby, in the Roman quarry of Baalbek, massive stones lie partially extracted, revealing the scale of work involved. Some blocks were never moved, suggesting that ancient builders could manipulate even larger stones than those incorporated into the platform. What determined which stones were chosen for transport? How were these behemoths moved over uneven terrain, across valleys and up slight inclines without modern transport methods? The physical labor required, even assuming large teams of workers, seems almost inconceivable, hinting at techniques and knowledge that remain partially obscured by time. Beyond their engineering challenges, the stones of Baalbek carry symbolic and ceremonial weight. The Temple of Jupiter, one of the largest in the Roman Empire, was constructed atop these megaliths, merging spiritual reverence with architectural audacity. Were the enormous stones meant to awe, intimidate, or demonstrate divine or imperial power? Did the very act of moving and placing such stones carry ritual significance, embedding the platform with layers of meaning beyond the practical? The interrelationship of scale, sacred space, and human effort at Baalbek suggests a civilization attuned not only to engineering, but also to symbolism and cosmology. Scholars have debated for centuries whether the platform predates the Roman construction entirely, possibly originating from earlier Phoenician or Canaanite cultures. Some argue that the megaliths may have served as a foundation for temples long before Roman occupation, raising questions about the continuity of monumental building practices in the Levant. Could ancient civilizations, millennia apart, have shared techniques or knowledge for manipulating megalithic stones? And if so, what networks of cultural transmission allowed such monumental skills to persist across time? The sheer precision of the stone cutting and placement continues to astonish researchers. Many stones fit together with minimal gaps, their surfaces polished, their angles calculated to resist seismic activity, a testament to both practical skill and understanding of structural stability. Yet there are aspects that remain enigmatic. Some megaliths are irregularly shaped, while others seem almost impossibly massive for human hands to move. Were ramps, levers, or counterweight systems employed? Or could there have been methods now forgotten, blending empirical knowledge with creative experimentation that defied contemporary expectations? The megaliths also provoke questions about human ambition and the desire to leave enduring legacies. What motivated builders to undertake such Herculean feats of labor? The logistical organization, coordination of resources, and technical skill required suggest a society capable of remarkable planning and long-term vision. Baalbek, in this sense, is more than an architectural site. It is a testament to human imagination, determination, and reverence for the sacred. The stones themselves, silent yet imposing, bear witness to the ingenuity and aspiration of those who conceived and executed such monumental construction. Speculative theories abound regarding the origins and purpose of these megaliths. Some fringe theories suggest that advanced or even unknown technologies may have been employed to move and position the blocks. Others propose that the stones encode astronomical alignments, intended to correspond with celestial events, solstices, or the movements of planets. While these hypotheses remain speculative, they highlight the enduring intrigue of Baalbek. The more we study it, the more questions arise. How much did ancient builders understand about physics, astronomy, and engineering? What methods did they use to accomplish what seems impossible even today? The placement of the stones continues to challenge modern engineers and archaeologists. Contemporary studies demonstrate that moving and positioning stones of this magnitude using simple machines would require extraordinary coordination, timing, and manpower. Theories range from sophisticated use of ramps and sledges to experimental demonstrations showing the potential for rollers, levers, and ropes. Yet even with modern insight, the feat remains monumental, a bridge between human aspiration and mystery. What combination of skill, ingenuity, and labor allowed the builders of Baalbek to manipulate stones whose weight surpasses the combined capacity of hundreds of workers? Baalbek also invites reflection on the intersection of human ambition and landscape. Situated on a plateau within the fertile Bekaa Valley, the site dominates its surroundings, creating a visual impression of power, permanence, and reverence. The choice of location, alongside the sheer scale of construction, suggests a deliberate attempt to impress both the living and perhaps the divine. Could the megaliths themselves have served as markers of sacred geography, celestial alignment, or territorial authority? And how much of their purpose was practical, ritualistic, or symbolic? The giant stones of Baalbek endure as both an archaeological enigma and a source of wonder. They challenge our understanding of ancient engineering, the limits of human ambition, and the ingenuity of civilizations long gone. Every attempt to decipher their construction, transport, and purpose underscores the profound capabilities of ancient societies while leaving key questions unanswered. They invite us to contemplate not only the technical achievements, but also the cultural, spiritual, and societal forces that inspired such feats. Walking among these colossal blocks today, one feels both humility and curiosity. The stones, silent yet imposing, speak across millennia, suggesting a dialogue between the past and present. They urge us to reflect on the capabilities of human ingenuity, the persistence of cultural memory, and the mysteries that endure despite centuries of study. What secrets remain embedded in the granite, waiting to be uncovered? How much of the knowledge that produced Baalbek has been lost to time, leaving us to marvel, speculate, and seek understanding across the ages? The giant stones of Baalbek are more than monuments. They are enduring symbols of human ambition and the persistent allure of the unexplained. Their massive presence invites reflection on the intersection of technology, ritual, and vision in the ancient world. They remind us that even with modern knowledge, some achievements of the past retain their sense of awe and mystery, urging generations to continue exploring, questioning, and imagining the remarkable capabilities of those who came before us. From the towering megaliths of Baalbek, where human ambition and engineering prowess collide on a monumental scale, our journey carries us eastward across the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean to a place both remote and enigmatic. Nan-Madol, the so-called Venice of the Pacific, nestled along the eastern shore of Pohnpei in Micronesia. Here, amid turquoise waters and dense tropical vegetation, an extraordinary city rises from the lagoon, a labyrinth of artificial islets and colossal basalt structures linked by narrow canals that glisten under the tropical sun. Even today, the site is both breathtaking and unsettling, an ancient urban landscape so audacious and intricate that it seems almost otherworldly. Nan-Madol comprises nearly 100 small man-made islets, each constructed from massive basalt logs and coral fill. Some of these stones weigh several tons, their dark surfaces hewn with precision and stacked to form walls, platforms, and ceremonial structures. The city, sprawling over an area of more than 80 acres, served as the ceremonial and political center of the Saudeleur dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei for centuries. Yet, despite centuries of study, the methods by which the builders quarried, transported, and assembled these enormous stones remain a profound mystery. How could a society with no draft animals, wheels, or iron tools orchestrate the construction of such a complex, enduring city? The architecture of Nan-Madol is astonishing in both scale and sophistication. Basalt columns, some reaching over 3 meters in height, were cut from a volcanic quarry several kilometers away and transported across water and land, a feat that defies conventional expectations. The canals, which wind between the islets like veins of water, suggest an intimate understanding of hydraulics and urban planning. Were these waterways primarily practical, enabling transport and trade, or did they hold ceremonial or symbolic significance? Perhaps they served both functions, a deliberate merging of functionality, spirituality, and environmental adaptation. Historians and archaeologists have long debated the origins and timeline of Nan-Madol. Radiocarbon dating suggests that construction began around the 8th or 9th century CE, yet some local oral traditions claim that the city was founded by legendary figures with near-mythical abilities. These tales describe rulers who commanded enormous labor forces and possessed knowledge that allowed them to move stones with seemingly magical ease. While such stories cannot be taken literally, they hint at the awe inspired by the city and the reverence in which it was held by later generations. Could there be fragments of forgotten techniques embedded in these legends, now obscured by time and imagination? One of the most compelling mysteries of Nan-Madol is the precision and permanence of its construction. The basalt stones are stacked in intricate patterns, forming walls and platforms that have withstood centuries of tropical storms, shifting tides, and seismic activity. The blocks fit together without mortar in many places, their massive weight providing stability against both environmental and human forces. How did the builders achieve such precision? Did they employ sophisticated measurement techniques, trial and error, or tools now lost to history? and what motivated them to undertake such a massive endeavor in such a remote location far from major continental centers of civilization. The purpose and function of non-metal remain equally enigmatic. While some structures clearly served as ceremonial platforms, royal residences, or tombs, the overall layout of the city suggests a level of planning and social organization that is extraordinary for its time and place. The Saudeleur rulers, according to legend, centralized authority in ways that may have required both monumental architecture and strict social hierarchy. Did the construction of these massive stone edifices serve to legitimize political power, embody spiritual authority, or both? And if so, what rituals, knowledge, or expertise were required to coordinate the labor, resources, and logistics necessary to realize such a vision? Adding to the intrigue is the isolation of Pohnpei itself. Unlike the continental lands of Europe, the Middle East, or South America, Micronesia is composed of small, scattered islands, each separated by vast stretches of ocean. The sourcing, shaping, and transportation of massive basalt logs across both land and water suggest not only ingenuity, but also a profound understanding of engineering, physics, and hydrodynamics. Could the Saudeleur have developed specialized rafts, rollers, or other devices now forgotten, enabling them to manipulate stones that weigh several tons over water? How much of their knowledge has been lost, leaving only the monuments as a silent testament to their capabilities? Speculative theories about Nan Madol range from practical to fantastical. Some researchers emphasize the ingenuity of human labor, combined with careful planning and experimentation, as sufficient to explain the construction. Others suggest that astronomical or geomantic principles may have influenced the placement of islets and platforms, encoding a spiritual or ritual significance into the city's layout. Could Nan Madol have been a cosmological map in stone and water, aligning terrestrial structures with celestial phenomena, seasons, or tides? And if so, what does this reveal about the worldview of its creators, their understanding of the cosmos, and the integration of knowledge, power, and belief in shaping their environment? Despite centuries of investigation, Nan Madol resists full comprehension. Archaeological excavations have uncovered residential areas, ceremonial platforms, and tombs, yet large portions of the site remain unexplored, submerged, or obscured by vegetation. The difficulty of access, combined with the fragile environment, has limited comprehensive study, leaving gaps in our understanding of both the construction techniques and the daily life of its inhabitants. What secrets lie beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed by careful investigation? Could there be inscriptions, artifacts, or architectural details that shed light on the knowledge and culture of the Saudeleur? The megalithic structures of Nan Madol also invite reflection on the universal human drive to create, to leave a mark, and to manipulate the environment in ways that transcend immediate necessity. The city embodies the intersection of technology, social organization, spiritual belief, and environmental adaptation. Each stone, each canal, and each platform represents a deliberate act of labor, knowledge, and vision. The effort required to achieve such a feat is staggering, even by modern standards. Yet the builders undertook it with determination, purpose, and likely reverence. What inspired them to attempt what many would deem impossible, and how much of their process and understanding remains hidden from us today? Walking among the silent stones of Nan Madol, one cannot help but feel the weight of history, the hum of human ambition, and the whispers of mystery. The site speaks of ingenuity and organization, of power and belief, yet it withholds many of its secrets. Every basalt block, every canal, and every artificial islet invites questions about the people who shaped them, the knowledge they possessed, the rituals they performed, and the legacy they intended to leave behind. How much remains hidden beneath the waters and vegetation? What insights into human capability and cultural achievement have we yet to uncover? Non-metal, like the megaliths of Baalbek or the walls of Sacsayhuaman, stands as a testament to both the ingenuity and the mystery of ancient civilizations. Its construction, purpose, and enduring presence challenge modern understanding, reminding us that human creativity and ambition often operate on scales that defy expectation. The city endures as a puzzle, an invitation, and a monument, a place where the past converses silently with the present, urging us to wonder, explore, and seek understanding across centuries. Even as we leave the turquoise waters and stepping stones of non-metal behind, the questions it poses linger. How were such feats achieved? What knowledge was required? And how much of that knowledge has been lost to time? Its silent stones continue to inspire curiosity, reflection, and awe, and they remind us that some mysteries remain deliberately, profoundly unresolved, waiting for future generations to rediscover their secrets. From the distant islets and canals of non-model, where human ingenuity and sheer determination sculpted a city of stone and water, our journey leads us to the high plains of Bolivia, to a remote region near Lake Titicaca, where an artifact emerges from antiquity, small in size yet vast in mystery. The Fuente Magna Bowl. Resting quietly in a modest collection, this unassuming ceramic vessel conceals within its clay surface secrets that have puzzled researchers for decades. Its discovery near the ruins of Tiwanaku, one of South America's most enigmatic pre-Columbian sites, immediately raised eyebrows, not for its form, but for its inscriptions. Symbols curiously reminiscent of Sumerian cuneiform, thousands of miles and centuries away from the Andes. The bowl itself is elegantly crafted, a simple yet finely formed vessel of gray stone, circular, shallow, and functional in appearance. Yet, upon closer inspection, it becomes something far more extraordinary. The rim and interior are etched with characters that appear deliberate, precise, and intentionally inscribed. To the trained eye, these markings do not resemble the more familiar iconography of Andean cultures. Instead, they suggest a script and linguistic system that is profoundly foreign to the region. How could such symbols have appeared in the highlands of Bolivia? What knowledge, contact, or cultural transmission might have enabled the creation of this artifact? Mainstream scholarship has been cautious in approaching the Fuente Magna Bowl. Some experts propose that the inscriptions are pseudo-script, perhaps the creative work of local artisans imitating foreign styles, while others argue that the resemblance to Sumerian writing is coincidental or superficial. Yet for those who examine the symbols closely, the precision and consistency hint at something far more deliberate. Could it represent a form of proto-writing, a lost knowledge system, or a connection that challenges conventional narratives of pre-Columbian isolation? The questions linger, uncomfortably bridging the realms of archaeology, linguistics, and ancient history. Tiwanaku, the archaeological complex near which the bowl was found, itself presents mysteries that mirror those of the vessel. Massive stone platforms, intricately carved monoliths, and precisely aligned gates suggest a civilization with extraordinary engineering and astronomical knowledge. The famous Gate of the Sun, with its precise solar alignments and enigmatic carvings, demonstrates that Tiwanaku was a society attuned to celestial patterns, capable of monumental construction, and richly symbolic in its expression. In this context, the Fuente Magna Bowl appears as a tantalizing puzzle piece, one small object capable of potentially reshaping our understanding of the region's connections and intellectual depth. One of the most perplexing aspects of the bowl lies in the question of origin. Some researchers speculate that it may predate Tiwanaku itself, hinting at transoceanic contact long before the European age of exploration. Could ancient peoples, navigating the seas with technologies and knowledge now lost, have carried ideas, scripts, or even individuals across continents? Or is it more plausible that the markings represent an entirely indigenous creation, a sophisticated symbolic system yet to be deciphered? Both possibilities challenge established historical frameworks, forcing us to reconsider assumptions about isolation, exchange, and the diffusion of knowledge in the ancient world. The inscriptions, etched with careful precision, invite detailed study and evoke profound curiosity. Linguists and epigraphers have debated their significance, attempting to correlate the symbols with known ancient scripts. While some symbols bear resemblance to cuneiform, a script used in Mesopotamia thousands of years earlier, others appear unique, forming a hybrid or entirely novel system. What language, if any, do these symbols represent? Were they functional, conveying practical information, ritualistic, conveying spiritual messages, or even political, symbolizing status, lineage, or power? The bowl's small size belies the enormous intellectual questions it provokes. Context deepens the mystery. The bowl was found in proximity to Tiwanaku's ceremonial and administrative zones, suggesting that it may have been part of sacred rituals, elite consumption, or record-keeping. Was it used in religious ceremonies, perhaps holding offerings, liquids, or other ritual substances? Or did it serve as a didactic tool, a portable repository of knowledge encoded in its inscriptions? The functional and symbolic overlap of artifacts in ancient societies complicates modern interpretation, leaving room for multiple, sometimes conflicting explanations. Speculative theories have arisen, fueled by the apparent Sumerian-like script. Could ancient trans-Pacific or transatlantic contacts have occurred, enabling exchange of knowledge across oceans long before recognized global navigation? Some proponents point to similarities in iconography, metallurgy, or ceremonial practices between the Old and New Worlds as supporting evidence, though mainstream scholars remain skeptical. Regardless of the degree of contact, the Fuente Magna bowl forces us to confront the possibility that the ancient world may have been more interconnected, or at least more intellectually expansive than conventional accounts suggest. Beyond questions of origin, the bowl challenges assumptions about literacy, symbolism, and cultural complexity in the Andes. Tiwanaku's monumental architecture, precise stonework, and urban planning suggest a society capable of sophisticated thought and organization. The Fuente Magna bowl, whether indigenous or influenced by external cultures, embodies the intellectual curiosity, technical skill, and symbolic expression of its makers. It serves as a reminder that small objects can carry immense weight in understanding the past, functioning as silent witnesses to knowledge systems, cultural exchange, and the imagination of civilizations long gone. The aesthetic and tactile qualities of the bowl reinforce its enigmatic power. Its smooth surface, the deliberate depth of the carvings, and the subtle symmetry of its form speak to meticulous craftsmanship. Every groove, curve, and etched line appears intentional, suggesting a disciplined hand and a coherent system of meaning. How did the creators conceive of such a miniature canvas? And what inspired them to record their knowledge or symbolism in this manner? The intimacy of the object contrasts sharply with the vastness of its implied significance, making the bowl both approachable and profoundly mysterious. The Fuente Magna bowl also invites reflection on the broader human impulse to communicate, record, and preserve knowledge. Across continents and millennia, civilizations have inscribed messages in stone, clay, metal, and wood, seeking to transmit ideas beyond the confines of their lifetimes. In this context, the bowl may represent a similar desire, a small but durable vessel of thought, belief, or instruction, capable of enduring centuries to challenge and inspire future generations. What knowledge was deemed important enough to inscribe in such a meticulous, permanent way? And how much of that knowledge has been lost, waiting quietly beneath the layers of history to be rediscovered? Walking through Tiwanaku and holding the Fuente Magna bowl in one's mind's eye, one cannot help but feel the presence of the past, its ingenuity, its mystery, and its persistent questions. The artifact serves as a bridge between worlds, between continents, between peoples, and between the realms of known history and tantalizing speculation. Every symbol carved into its surface is an invitation to wonder, a silent prompt to explore the limits of human understanding, and a reminder that even small objects can challenge the grand narratives of civilization. Ultimately, the Fuente Magna bowl endures as both a mystery and a testament. Its origin, purpose, and inscriptions provoke questions that remain unanswered, yet it also exemplifies the remarkable capabilities of the ancient world. How much of human history, ingenuity, and knowledge remains hidden in the high plains, in remote lakes, or in the hands of civilizations long forgotten? What secrets lie in plain sight, waiting for careful observation, study, and imagination to reveal them? In contemplating the Fuente Magna bowl, we are reminded that archaeology is not merely the recovery of artifacts, but the exploration of human thought, connection, and ambition. It challenges us to look beyond the obvious, to question assumptions, and to embrace the mysteries that define the past. And as we continue our journey through the extraordinary discoveries that span continents and epochs, the bowl stands as a quiet, enduring enigma, one small object with the power to expand our understanding, ignite our curiosity, and remind us that some of the most profound mysteries are hidden in the details we might otherwise overlook. From the high plains of Bolivia, where the Fuente Magna bowl hints at possible transcontinental connections and lost knowledge, our journey carries us across oceans once more, to the windswept beaches of New Zealand's Otago coast. Here, scattered along Kokohe Beach near the small town of Moeraki, lie enigmatic stones that have puzzled visitors and scientists alike for centuries. The Meraki boulders. Spherical, imposing, and unnaturally uniform, these massive stones seem almost deliberately placed, each resting on the sands as though set by hands far larger and more deliberate than nature itself might allow. Their presence immediately evokes a sense of wonder and quiet unease. These are not ordinary rocks. They are silent witnesses to a deep and mysterious geological past. Stretching for kilometers along the shoreline, the boulders vary in size, some no larger than a melon, others exceeding 2 meters in diameter and weighing several tons. Their surfaces are smooth, rounded, and often patterned with natural cracks and internal veins of calcite, giving them a subtly sculpted appearance. To the casual observer, they may seem like mere curiosities of nature, but to the careful eye, the scale, regularity, and positioning invite profound questions. How could such perfectly rounded stones form in such striking numbers along this narrow stretch of coastline? And why here, in this specific place, with no equivalent formations nearby? Mainstream science explains the Moeraki boulders as concretions, sedimentary structures formed millions of years ago, growing gradually around a central core of clay, surrounded by mineral deposits from seawater. Over time, erosion stripped away the softer surrounding material, leaving these remarkable spheres exposed on the beach. Yet, even within this geological explanation, mysteries persist. The uniformity of the spheres, the density of some, and the near-perfect roundness of others challenge expectations for natural formation. How does nature sculpt such large stones into forms so consistently spherical? And why are they confined to this precise coastal stretch, rather than dispersed randomly across the landscape? Adding to the intrigue is the cultural significance of the boulders to the Maori people, who have long inhabited the region. According to Maori legend, the stones are the remains of eel baskets, calabashes and kumara that washed ashore from the wreck of the canoe, Arai Teuru. This oral tradition imbues the boulders with layers of mythic meaning, framing them not merely as physical objects but as symbolic remnants of ancestral voyages and spiritual events. Could there be truth embedded in these stories, reflecting an ancient understanding of the coastline's geological processes? Or are they primarily allegorical, intended to connect people to place and history? The boulder's composition and internal structure provide further fascination. Some contain hollow cavities lined with crystalline minerals, while others show intricate layering, concentric rings, and subtle geometric patterns that suggest careful, deliberate formation. How did these concentric layers develop so uniformly, and what environmental conditions allowed them to endure for tens of millions of years without fracturing or collapsing? While science points to slow chemical precipitation around sediment cores, the resulting spheres still evoke the appearance of crafted objects, artifacts shaped by intention rather than chance. Speculative theories about the Moeraki boulders extend beyond geology and legend, hinting at connections to ancient, possibly lost civilizations. Some have suggested that these perfectly rounded forms inspired or guided the placement of sacred sites, ceremonial structures, or navigational markers in the region. Could the boulders have served as natural monuments, integrated into the spiritual and social landscapes of early Polynesian settlers? Were they considered living stones, imbued with mana, spiritual power, and deliberately preserved and revered by generations? Walking along the beach at dawn, when mist lingers over the sand and waves lap softly at the boulder's bases, one is struck by a profound sense of temporality and scale. The stones, weathered yet enduring, connect the present to epochs long past, to geological and cultural histories intertwined across millions of years. The Moeraki boulders embody the tension between nature's creative forces and the human impulse to interpret, mythologize, and find meaning in the world around us. What stories, encoded in legend or stone, have been overlooked, forgotten, or misinterpreted over the centuries? Scientific study has revealed that the boulders are composed primarily of mud, fine silt, and clay, cemented by calcite, derived from mineral-rich waters. Yet even with chemical analysis and radiometric dating, questions remain. How did environmental variables, such as ocean currents, climate, and tectonic activity, influence the formation and placement of these spheres? And what subtle, unrecognized factors might have contributed to their remarkable uniformity and enduring presence along the shoreline? The human fascination with the Moeraki boulders extends beyond the scientific. Photographers, travelers, and artists are drawn to their simple yet extraordinary forms. Their spherical shapes invite contemplation of perfection in nature, symmetry, and the unexpected ways geological forces can create what appears at first glance to be art. Could it be that the boulder's form inspired symbolic or ritualistic practices among early human settlers, influencing cultural development or spiritual cosmology in ways we have yet to fully understand? Even more perplexing are the scattered variations among the spheres. Some are fractured, revealing hollow interiors lined with delicate calcite crystals, while others display subtle distortions, deviating slightly from perfect geometry. Are these imperfections simply natural anomalies? Or could they hint at environmental conditions, episodic growth patterns, or even unknown geological processes that shaped each sphere individually? Every detail invites further observation, experimentation, and contemplation, underscoring the complexity of what might initially appear as a simple phenomenon. The Moeraki boulders, much like the Fuente Magna bowl or non-model, exemplify the intricate interplay between human curiosity, natural forces, and the passage of time. They challenge assumptions, provoke questions, and demand careful study to understand not only their formation, but also their broader significance. Did the ancients see these stones as markers of cosmic order, divine intervention, or simply the awe-inspiring handiwork of nature? And how does our modern perspective, informed by science yet still limited, intersect with the myths and interpretations passed down by generations of indigenous observers? Standing among the spheres, one senses the deep continuity of time. The stones evoke an ancient rhythm, a patience measured in millions of years, and a narrative that bridges science, legend, and imagination. They remind us that the world is full of phenomena that defy simple explanation, artifacts of processes both natural and cultural, whose origins and meanings remain partly hidden. The boulder's silent presence encourages reflection on the limits of knowledge, the power of myth, and the enduring capacity of human beings to be captivated by the mysterious. The Moaraki boulders invite us to ask, how much of the Earth's history remains unrecorded in stone, sand, and legend? How do the forces of nature intersect with human perception to create objects that inspire awe, curiosity, and speculation? And what might future discoveries, deeper investigations, or new interpretive frameworks reveal about the processes that shaped these extraordinary spheres and the ways in which they have influenced human understanding across time? As the tide rises and the waves gently lap at the bases of the stones, one can feel the pull of both mystery and permanence. The Moaraki boulders endure as silent, rounded witnesses to geological processes, human interpretation, and the passage of time. They are at once ordinary and extraordinary, local yet universal, natural yet evocative of design. And in their quiet, enigmatic presence, they continue to challenge us, inviting us to wonder, to question, and to explore the boundaries of knowledge, imagination, and the unexplained mysteries of our world.